Chapter 24:20, The Consequences of Getting Lost. 3. Seeing this, one of the elders of the Phoenix clan couldn't help but ask, Xiao Lu, why are you sighing? Hearing the two words, Little Six, sixth elder was deeply conflicted. The three of them were clearly of the same generation, but these two guys always called her Little Six because they were older. When she heard these two words, she felt very helpless. Please don't call me Little Six, okay? The sixth elder requested after another sigh. Then you're called Lulu. But I still feel that Little Six is more amiable. An old phoenix said with a smirk. Forget it, you'll just be called Little Six. The sixth elder was helpless. Then, after thinking for a while, she said, Feng Xiao. He has already left the Feng clan. What? Hearing this, one of the old phoenixes immediately jumped up in shock and spoke with some anger. He has left the Phoenix clan to train. The sixth elder said honestly. In fact, she had hesitated for a long time and finally decided to tell someone this news, in case someone heard about this from other clansmen and blamed her for hiding it. Damn it! Who told him to leave the Feng clan? A certain old ancestor of the Phoenix race roared out in anger. That bastard! He didn't care about his father who was severely injured and went out to train at this time. What was he trying to do? Was he rebelling? The Feng clan is in troubled times right now. It's a good thing for Feng Xiao to go out and gain experience. Besides, he's already an adult and an elder of the Phoenix clan. You don't think that any human would dare to bully him, do you? Seeing a certain someone's extreme reaction, the sixth elder couldn't help but advise. She had promised Feng Xiao that she wouldn't tell anyone about his departure from the Feng clan, but now she had broken her promise. Therefore, she really felt that she had the obligation to appease this furious fellow in front of her. Old Fire, I think what Little Six said makes sense. That little guy Feng Xiao has already left. Do you still want to go and catch him back? The other Phoenix ancestor, who was calm and composed, gave the furious old Phoenix a knowing look. The old Phoenix, who was called Old Hua, calmed down instantly. In fact, the reason why Old Fire was so anxious was that he was afraid that his rash descendant would go to find his master. If that kid did something to annoy his master, he simply didn't dare to imagine what kind of consequences Feng Xiao would have. He was afraid that Song, who was next to his master, would not let Feng Xiao off. Old Fire's heart was filled with regret. If it wasn't for the time when he was chatting with Feng Miao, the other ancestor of the Feng clan, and accidentally mentioned his master, which was heard by Feng Xiao, he was afraid that Feng Xiao would not have such a big opinion of his master. He even said arrogantly that he would meet Ling Ruoxue when he had the chance. He knew very well what his son meant. However, it was also because of their conversation that Feng Xiao inadvertently found out the truth of their mission. He found out about him and Feng Miao's undercover mission and their thoughts. Every time the two of them saw Feng Xiao, they spared no effort in instilling him with the story of the previous Prince Feng. Although Feng Xiao didn't have much of a reaction at that time, the two of them knew very well that Feng Xiao had long accumulated dissatisfaction with the current Prince Feng. Feng Xiao had also blamed Feng Tong for the two of them being captured. This was also the main reason why Feng Xiao had tried so hard to help an outsider. Feng Xiao wanted to take revenge for his father. Therefore, even though he clearly knew how much the Phoenix King hated Lian Wu, he still praised Lian Wu in front of the elders and told them not to offend Lian Wu. With his eloquence, his words naturally won the hearts of the elders and inadvertently helped Ling Ruoxue a lot. However, Feng Xiao was not clear about Lian Wu's true identity, so he spared no effort to speak up for her. Otherwise, once he knew that Lian Wu was Ling Ruoxue, it was hard to say whether he would help. Who asked him to hold a grudge against Ling Ruoxue? And now, Feng Xiao had secretly left the Feng clan, and it was very likely that he would find trouble with his own master. Thinking of this, Old Fire was anxious, but under the comfort of Feng Miao's eyes, Old Fire temporarily suppressed it and tried to hide the anxiety in his heart. After casually chatting with the sixth elder for a while, Old Fire deliberately showed a tired state. The sixth elder saw this, so he tactfully chose to leave. As soon as the sixth elder left, Old Fire immediately grabbed Feng Miao's sleeve and sent a voice transmission with a worried face. What should we do? What should he do? If that stinky brat were to provoke Master, would he be able to come back alive? Who do you think you are? Master would not kill innocent people. Don't worry. Although Feng Miao was comforting him like this, to be honest, he didn't have much confidence. Because he knew that Master might not kill the Feng clan for the sake of Feng Zhan and the other ancestors, but that terrifying song by Master's side might not let go of the fellow who provoked Master. Therefore, if Feng Shao really found his master, it was very likely that he would be in deep trouble. However, he didn't dare to say these words at this time. Otherwise, it would be strange if Old Fire didn't go crazy. Just like now, when the two of them chatted, they could only use voice transmission to avoid others from discovering their identities as spies. It was not the right time to expose themselves. Thanks all of a sudden, Feng Miao had a flash of inspiration, and she transmitted her voice to Old Huo with a happy expression. Old friend, why don't you contact Master and tell her about the Feng clan, and also about Feng Shao? Will this work? Old Fire was a little afraid that his master would be angry, because the two of them had not made any progress in their undercover work, but they had exposed their own identity first. Although it was his own descendant who knew his identity, after all, he had not been able to convince that kid to join his master. Therefore, he felt that he was too ashamed to see his master. Sob. He was so conflicted and in a difficult position. Let's try. We can't hide this matter. Otherwise, if your Feng Shao really comes to find Master and Master doesn't know anything about it and isn't prepared at all, then, Feng Wan only said half of her sentence before she deliberately stopped and let Old Fire think about it. Old Fire quickly thought about it. Finally, he slapped his thigh and made up his mind, I'm going all out. I should tell Master. When he finished his sentence, he did not have any confidence at all. He looked at Feng Miao pitifully, and Feng Miao gave Old Fire an encouraging look. Just like that, Old Fire's little heart trembled as he took the initiative to contact Leng Ruoxue. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue, who was enjoying herself in the Peacock tribe, was surprised to receive a message from an undercover old phoenix. Then, she saw Tsang's smirk and guessed that something must have happened in the phoenix tribe that she didn't know about. However, the evil Tsang didn't tell her. After connecting to the old phoenix's voice transmission, Leng Ruoxue patiently listened to the old phoenix's report. Finally, Old Fire stammered for a long time before he finally mustered his courage and said to his master, Master, our identities have been exposed. The moment she heard the word exposed, Leng Ruoxue could not help but worry for the two old phoenixes. She could not help but ask, then how does the Phoenix King plan to deal with you? I'm currently in the Phoenix territory. Don't worry, I'll find a way to save you. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue had already forgotten about the old phoenix's previous report. In her heart, only the old phoenix had exposed this fact. On the other hand, when Old Flame heard this, he knew that his master had misunderstood. However, he was still touched by his master's care and love. When their master heard that their identities had been exposed, not only did he not blame them, but he also wanted to save them. What a good master! Old Fire was moved to tears. When Feng Miao, who was beside him, saw this, she thought that Old Fire had been blamed by its master and was extremely anxious. After slightly calming down his excited mood, Old Fire was touched and explained to his master the reason for his exposure. He emphasized that Feng Shao may go to find his master and hoped that his master would be magnanimous and not hold it against him. After Leng Ruoxue understood everything, she felt a little embarrassed. So, she had misunderstood. However, even if the Phoenix King were to find out the identity of the two old phoenixes, she would definitely think of a way to save them. Only she could bully her beastie. If others wanted to bully him, there was no way. After figuring out the truth of the matter, Leng Ruoxue readily agreed to Old Fire's request. If Feng Shao really delivered himself to her door, she promised that she would not make things difficult for that phoenix. When Old Fire heard this, he immediately felt relieved. Suddenly, Old Fire came to a realization and said with disbelief, "Master, you just said that you were in the Phoenix territory. Did I hear you wrong?" "You didn't hear wrong. I'm in the Phoenix territory now, but I'm using someone else's identity." Len Ruoshua laughed. Someone else's identity? Old Fire pondered hard after hearing that. If his master really came to the Phoenix territory, it would certainly cause a big commotion. Therefore, he combined the things that the sixth elder had told them in his heart and guessed which one was his master. After a moment of silence, Old Fire suddenly roared in shock, "Master, Master, I heard that a human called Lien Wu has recently come to the clan, and he's the advisor of Fog Ice." "Is that you?" "It's me, your master. However, you must keep this a secret." When Len Ruoshua heard Old Fire's surprised voice, her mood suddenly turned for the better. "Don't worry, Master. I won't tell anyone," Old Fire promised. The admiration in his heart for his master was like a surging river, endless. Because he had heard a lot about Lord Lien Wu from the sixth elder and also from the grapevine. At that time, he worshipped the person who could cause trouble for the Phoenix King. Now that he heard that that person was his master, the worship in his heart could not be suppressed no matter what. Old Fire was excited again. Chapter 24-21, Nouveau Riche Len Ruoshua, 1, As expected of my master. No matter where they went, it would not be peaceful. Old Fire couldn't help but think. Of course, his words were not meant to mock Len Ruoshua, but to express his envy, admiration, and adoration. One had to know that other people didn't have the ability to be like master. Only his master could turn the place upside down and make it a horrible sight. How capable was this? Old Fire's respect for its master rose to an unprecedented level. However, it was fortunate that Len Ruoshua had yet to find out Old Fire's thoughts. Otherwise, she would have been extremely depressed. Because no matter how she listened to Old Fire's praise, she felt that something was wrong. At this moment, Feng Miao, who was waiting for the news at the side, saw her old buddy crying, laughing, and standing there in a daze. She was extremely anxious. How much stimulation did he have to go through to make this old friend of his like this? Feng Miao looked worriedly at her fellow brother who was in trouble, thinking that she must comfort him later. Sigh. Master must be blaming him. Feng Miao kept sighing at the side, while Old Fire's excitement could not be described with words. After chatting with Len Ruoshua for a long time, Old Fire finally ended the conversation with Len Ruoshua reluctantly. This was a decision that Old Fire had made with great difficulty after Len Ruoshua had become a little impatient. Otherwise, he would have continued the conversation. After Old Hua ended the voice transmission, he was still a little dazed and touched his moist eyes from time to time. Feng Wan saw this and sighed. Old Fire, don't be too sad. Master is definitely just angry for a moment. He won't really blame you. Feng Miao did not know how to comfort Old Fire, and was not sure if his master was really angry, so he could only guess and comfort him based on his own judgment. However, Old Fire was confused when he heard what he said. Who said that the master is blaming me? Old Hua blinked his eyes in a daze and said with a blank expression. Master didn't blame you. When Feng Miao heard this, she was also stunned for a moment. No, I didn't. Master also said that if she really saw Feng Shao, she would not make things difficult for him. Old Fire said honestly. As he spoke, he became excited again, and his face instantly turned red. Then, why are you crying? Hearing Old Fire's words, Feng Miao asked speechlessly. So she had misunderstood. However, he couldn't be blamed for this. It was this old thing who made him misunderstand. I'm touched and excited. Master is so concerned about us. Old Fire was so excited that he was almost out of breath. After he suppressed his excitement and reported the matter to Feng Miao was instantly excited as well. You said that Master is in the Phoenix territory? Feng Miao asked in disbelief. Yup. Didn't I already tell you? This matter must be kept a secret. When Master comes to the Phoenix clan, we have to pretend that we don't know Master. Old Fire could not help but remind him. You don't have to tell me that, I know what to do. However, don't you think we should go and see Master? It's been a long time since I've seen Master, and I've been having weird thoughts. Feng Miao suggested with some uncertainty. Let's just sneak a look at Master. Otherwise, I'm afraid that I won't be able to control myself when I see Master in public and he'll be exposed. After thinking for a while, Old Fire said. Thanks, alright. Feng Miao also nodded in agreement. Then, the two old phoenixes waited for Len Ruoxue in the clan with a heart full of excitement. Who knew that even after waiting for several days, they still didn't hear Lord Lianwu coming? Just as the two old phoenixes were waiting anxiously, the two with sharp ears suddenly heard a clansman wildly shouting, Lord Lianwu is here. Everyone, be on guard. When the two of them heard this cry, they looked at each other speechlessly. They thought to themselves, it seems that Master has brought quite a bit of excitement to their own clansmen. However, as a member of the Phoenix clan, he had to do something for the clan. With that thought in mind, the two of them revealed a tacit smile and were about to walk out when they were stopped at the gate by the sixth elder. The sixth elder looked at the two restless phoenixes with an unfriendly expression and said in an unpleasant tone, Where do you guys want to go? Hee hee. Little Six, we heard that the legendary Lord Lianwu is here, so we want to go and take a look. Old Fire and Feng Miao looked at each other and said in unison. Don't go. Stay here obediently. You're still patience. The sixth elder didn't even think about it and stopped the two old phoenixes who wanted to watch the fun from going out to join in the fun. When the two old phoenixes heard this, they immediately cried and drooped their heads. Sob. Little Six was really too dictatorial. It was not easy for their master to come here. They really wanted to sneak a peek. Even just a glance would do. However, Little Six didn't allow them to go out. What the hell is this? However, the two of them couldn't openly say that she was their master and that they had to see her since she was here at the Feng clan. Ugh. They must not expose their relationship now. However, if they were not allowed to see their master, the two old phoenixes suddenly felt an itch in their hearts. It was as if a kitten was scratching their hearts with its claws, making them feel quite uncomfortable. The next moment, the two of them looked pitifully at the overbearing sixth elder. Seeing this, the sixth elder couldn't help but hold his forehead and said with a headache, It's for your own good that I don't let you out. That Lianwu clearly came with ill intentions, and the king has no one to use. Don't forget, you haven't fully recovered from your injuries. Her words were definitely from the bottom of her heart. The two old phoenixes also understood that Little Six was doing this for their own good, and they could not directly tell their little thoughts to the sixth elder. Therefore, for a moment, the two old phoenixes were extremely conflicted. Seeing them like this, the sixth elder's heart softened and he softened his tone. It's not impossible for you to go out and take a look at Lord Wu, but you absolutely can't go out now. Let's wait until this matter is almost over before going out. Now, all of you go back and take a nap. In fact, the sixth elder was also quite curious about what the Mist sect would do. However, she knew the Phoenix King too well. She knew that the Phoenix King would definitely find an elder to deal with it. And now, besides her, the sixth elder, who had gone on strike, there were no other idle elders in the Phoenix clan. At this time, the elders of the Phoenix clan were either in seclusion or had left home. Therefore, the sixth elder was definitely not willing to be used by the unrepentant Phoenix King. When Old Fire and Feng Miao heard the sixth elder's words, they both smiled evilly and said in unison, Right. We can't let the king use us as laborers, so let's wait and go out to watch the show. When the sixth elder heard this, he nodded in satisfaction. Then, the three old phoenixes, who currently had the highest status in the Phoenix clan, turned around and returned to their rooms, drinking tea and chatting. At the same time, Len Ruoxue, who had been treated as a jinx by the phoenixes and was on high alert, led the large group once again. They marched from the main entrance of the Phoenix clan's territory and headed towards the Phoenix Royal Palace. Chapter 24-22, Nouveau riche Len Ruoxue. 2. This time, due to Len Ruoxue and the others' uninvited arrival, the Feng clan's guards were shocked and only cared about reporting back to the clan. Hence, Len Ruoxue and the others entered the Feng clan without any obstruction as if they had entered an uninhabited place. The Peacock King was surprised and speechless at the fact that no one stopped them wherever they went. In the past, he had thought that the Phoenix clan was very powerful. But now, why did he think that the Phoenix clan was weak? What was he trying to do? They did not even see a single phoenix's feather as they walked past. However, he could vaguely feel that many pairs of eyes were hiding in the dark and peeping at them. Since when did the Phoenix kind start to do such things? Such a Phoenix clan was definitely not on the same level as the powerful Phoenix clan he knew. Or had the Feng clan been replaced? The Peacock King's mind was in turmoil. He felt quite depressed about the new understanding of the Phoenix tribe. One must know that in his heart, the Phoenix tribe was once a noble tribe. But now, he was deeply disappointed. He really wanted to see a battle between the Phoenix clan and his master. But now, it seemed like it was just his master's personal show. The dignified Phoenix clan had actually gone into hiding. How embarrassing. It was too embarrassing. The Peacock King was glad that he had left the Phoenix clan. Otherwise, he would have been humiliated along with the Phoenix clan. With this thought, the Peacock King's spirits were lifted. He raised his head and puffed out his chest, following Len Ruoxue's footsteps with large strides. Len Ruoxue, who suddenly felt the fluctuation of aura beside her, raised her head and saw the Peacock King's excited look. She found it funny, but she could not understand why he was acting like a completely different person. Peacock King, you're about to meet the Phoenix King. Are you excited? Len Ruoxue smiled as she teased. What? The Peacock King was about to answer yes when he felt that his master's tone was a little off. The look in her eyes was even more off. The only thing that wasn't affected by the disguise was her beautiful eyes, which were filled with ambiguity. Instantly, the Peacock King became depressed. Does Master mean that he's excited because he's going to see the Phoenix King? I'm innocent. This was absolutely a great injustice. He was excited to see the Phoenix King, but it was definitely not the excitement that his master was thinking. He was excited because he knew that the Phoenix King was going to be in trouble. So, Master, can you not be so bad and deliberately wrong him? Thinking up to this point, the Peacock King's beautiful eyes were filled with tears. He pitifully said, "My dear, how could you misunderstand me? My heart is full of you." Upon hearing this, Len Ruoxue's face was filled with black lines. She had miscalculated. She shouldn't have teased this little peacock in the Phoenix clan's territory. Once this little peacock was in the Phoenix clan's territory, out of caution, it would call her darling in a nauseating manner. Yet, she couldn't say, "Don't call me that." Who asked this to be the Phoenix King's territory? At this moment, Len Ruoxue deeply felt that she had shot herself in the foot. As for the other peacocks who had come to watch, cheer, and watch the fun, they all had goosebumps when they heard these mushy words. Many of the exaggerated peacocks even lowered their heads and pretended to look for something, not daring to look at their disgraceful king. Thanks as for the Peacock King, he received Sang's icy cold gaze without exception. However, the strong and brave him still ignored Sang's gaze. When Sang saw this, he was furious. However, it didn't act rashly. Instead, it made a mental note of the Peacock King. "Humph. Someone will take care of you," Sang said hatefully. At this moment, after listening to the Peacock King's words, Len Ruoxue, who had been silent for a while, looked deeply at the Peacock King before continuing forward. Seeing this, the Peacock King hurriedly followed behind her like a guardian angel. With a depressed heart, Len Ruoxue brought a large group of peacocks and arrived at the entrance of the Royal Phoenix Palace in no time. When they arrived at the entrance of the Royal Phoenix Palace, Len Ruoxue's beautiful eyes swept across the place and saw the guards who were all ready to guard the Royal Phoenix Palace shiver. The leader of the guards even summoned up his courage and said, Lord Lianwu, the Phoenix King is currently recuperating and won't see anyone. So, please go back. When the leader of the guards said this, he mustered all his strength, and his little heart was trembling non-stop. However, Len Ruoxue did not take his words seriously at all. She only asked indifferently, Does the Phoenix King know that I'm here? I know. Ah. No. I don't know. The leader of the guards was speaking incoherently. One moment he knew, the next moment he didn't. Hearing this, Len Ruoxue was anxious for him. Alright, you don't have to be in a difficult position. It doesn't matter if you know or not. Go and report that I want to see the Phoenix King. Len Ruoxue ordered. When the guard leader heard Len Ruoxue's words, he was so conflicted that he was on the verge of tears. Even though he wanted to say that the Phoenix King had said that she did not want to see him, when he saw how determined Len Ruoxue was to see the Phoenix King, the leader of the guards did not dare to say the words that were already at the tip of his tongue. Do you want to go in and report yourself, or do you want me to use force? Len Ruoxue said impatiently when she saw the guard leader trembling again. Woo! Hearing this threat, the guard leader's eyes were filled with tears. He couldn't help but cry out in his heart, My lord! You can't do this. Aren't you making things difficult for me? However, Len Ruoxue clearly did not care if the other party was making things difficult for her. The peacocks behind her even took advantage of her authority and shouted in unison, Quickly go and tell the Phoenix King that my lord wants to see her. I'll beat you up if you dawdle. The guard leader was silent. Was this considered as the phoenix falling into the sun and being bullied by the peacock? The leader of the guards was quite depressed. He was actually bullied in his own territory. How useless was this? However, after the peacocks finished their roars, they felt extremely comfortable. An unprecedented sense of satisfaction filled their bodies. This feeling of exaltation was simply too wonderful. Quickly go. What are you doing? After a while, seeing that the guard leader was standing still, another peacock tried to roar. The leader of the guards was so depressed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. He raised his head to look at Len Ruoxue, but he still did not move. At this moment, Len Ruoxue glanced at the peacocks and said calmly, Didn't you say you were going to beat him up? Why aren't you doing anything? Ah! After the peacocks heard this, they cried out in surprise. Then, they suddenly realized that their master wanted them to beat someone up. Cheering, the peacocks swarmed up. The unlucky human guard leader didn't even have the time to attack before he was beaten to the ground by the huge number of peacocks. The peacocks didn't know how to control their strength, and many of them took the opportunity to take revenge. Therefore, the extremely aggrieved guard leader didn't react at all. The other guards present were all scared silly when they saw the fierce and brutal appearance of the peacocks. Chapter 24-23, Nouveau riche Len Ruoxue, 3. This also led to no guards coming to the rescue after the leader of the guards was beaten. After the leader of the guards fell to the ground, no guard dared to stand out. Moreover, the guards of the Phoenix tribe could not understand when the peacocks had become so ferocious. Were these the peacocks they knew? Injected with chicken blood? Or did he take hormones? In contrast to the Phoenix clan's guards' gloominess, the peacocks were excited again. They looked at Len Ruoxue with eyes full of admiration. It's better to follow master. In the past, they never had the chance to beat up Phoenix. Not to mention that they didn't have the chance, more importantly, they didn't have the guts to do so. But now, not only did they treat these phoenixes as nothing, but they also had the opportunity to beat these phoenixes up. At this moment, they truly felt that they were too blessed. Hee. As expected, there was meat to eat, wine to drink, and a phoenix to beat following master. Len Ruoxue was very satisfied with the peacock's swift and decisive actions. After giving them a look of praise, her beautiful eyes swept over the guards present. Even though she did not say a word, many of the timid guards could not help but tremble. I'll go and inform the Phoenix King. one of the Phoenix clan's guards said in an unyielding manner under Leng Ruoxia's threatening gaze. However, no matter how important a backbone was, it couldn't be more important than his life, right? These vicious and brutal guys would really beat the Phoenix to death. What made them feel aggrieved was that all the peacocks attacked in close combat, not giving them any chance to attack. After thinking about it, the tactful Feng clan guard put down his moral integrity and went to run errands for Leng Ruoxia. Not long after, Leng Ruoxia heard loud banging sounds coming from the courtyard of the Phoenix Palace. Following that, a guard with a swollen face and a bruised nose appeared in front of Leng Ruoxia and the others. He said with tears in his eyes, "Lord Lianwu, I've already informed the Phoenix King. He was even beaten up by the Phoenix King, sob. You've done well. This is your reward," Leng Ruoxia said with satisfaction. With that, Leng Ruoxia threw a small white jade bottle to the guard. The guard opened the bottle in confusion. The fragrance from the bottle instantly filled his nose. The guard was shocked and immediately poured out a pill and ate it. He then quickly closed the bottle and kept it carefully. After that, he looked at Leng Ruoxia with an even more charming gaze. He wasn't a fool and naturally knew that Lord Lianwu had given him a healing pill. However, the effect of this healing pill seemed to be even better than the best healing pill in their clan. In the blink of an eye, he felt that the injuries on his body were no longer painful. When he touched it with his hand, he realized that the injuries on his face and body had all healed. This guard was quite knowledgeable and knew how serious the injuries that the Phoenix King had caused him were. Even if he had taken healing pills, it was impossible for him to recover so quickly. However, the pills that Lord Lianwu had given him were very effective, so there was no need to doubt it. The guards were very grateful to Leng Ruoxia and no longer stopped her from entering the inner court of the Phoenix King Palace. As for the other guards who had seen the effects of Leng Ruoxia's elixir, they were not as determined as before. Now, they also felt that this Lord Lianwu really couldn't be offended. Look at how generous he was, directly giving a bottle of healing medicinal pills. The effect of that medicine was so amazing, and such a good healing medicinal pill would probably be sold for a sky-high price in the divine realm. However, after giving a bottle, he didn't even blink. How rich was he? What a nouveau riche's behavior. When the other guards looked at the guard who had received the pill, their eyes instantly burned with desire. Do you guys really want that pill too? Leng Ruoxia chuckled. Yes, yes. When the guards heard this, they all nodded in unison. The expression on their faces was like a puppy asking for a caress, as cute as it could be. I still have a lot of them. Leng Ruoxia smiled in satisfaction. Hearing this, the guards suppressed the desire in their hearts and looked at Leng Ruoxia. None of the guards present were stupid. They knew that Lord Lianwu would not give them such a precious pill for no reason. Thus, they were all waiting for Leng Ruoxia's conditions. Thanks at this moment, she heard Leng Ruoxia say, "Actually, I want to be on good terms with the Phoenix clan." The elders of the Phoenix clan also have the same intention. However, your Phoenix King refuses to agree no matter what. She even chased away those elders. Sigh. I pity you ordinary clansmen. The Phoenix kind now has no elders to help the Phoenix King. In the future, your king will be a commander with nothing but light. I'm afraid the status of the Phoenix clan is also. Leng Ruoxia purposely didn't finish her sentence. When the guards heard what Leng Ruoxia had to say, they all fell silent. In fact, the elders' strike was no longer a secret in the clan. However, many clansmen didn't know why the elders went on strike. However, as the guards of the Phoenix King, they definitely knew more than the ordinary clansmen. Now that they heard Leng Ruoxia's words, the guards could not help but hold a grudge against the Phoenix King. Especially after seeing Leng Ruoxia's precious pills, the guards deeply felt that befriending Leng Ruoxia would definitely bring more benefits than disadvantages to the Phoenix clan. But in this matter, these small guards could not make the decision. That. Lord Lianwu, we're just guards. We don't have the right to speak in such important matters of the Feng clan. Therefore, even if we really hope that the Feng clan can be on good terms with you, we're just insignificant people. I'm afraid we can't do anything about this matter. The guards looked at each other and sent a representative to speak. I don't need you to have the right to speak. It's enough as long as you have the intention. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Then what does Lord Lian Wu want us to do? The guard asked. Just tell the truth about the elders' strike to those clansmen who don't know the truth. You don't want the elders, who have been fighting for the interests of the phoenix kind, to be misunderstood by the clansmen, do you? Leng Ruoxue gave the guard a very smart look before replying. This is what I should do. When the guard heard this, he felt that Leng Ruoxue's request was not a difficult one. She just had to spread the truth. In any case, even if they didn't say these things, their clansmen would know one day. Seeing that the guards had agreed, Leng Ruoxue nodded her head in satisfaction. She then took out a few small white jade bottles and placed them in front of the guards. She explained, the pills inside are all for healing and recovering Shin power. Each person has 2 bottles. You can divide them among yourselves. A tycoon. He was definitely a big tycoon. When the guards heard this, they were instantly excited. They saw the white jade bottle releasing a green light that was like a wolf-s. However, in front of Leng Ruoxue, they held back and did not make a move. When Leng Ruoxue brought her peacocks into the inner courtyard of the Phoenix Palace, the guards immediately swarmed forward and divided the small jade bottles among themselves. As the saying goes, one's mouth is soft when eating others, and one's hands are short when taking something. The guards of the Phoenix clan would never dare to take something from someone else without doing anything. Therefore, in just a short while, all the clansmen in the Phoenix clan's territory knew the truth about their elders' strike. In an instant, the whole Phoenix clan was full of complaints against the Phoenix King. This whirlwind quickly reached Feng Miao and the other 2. After the 6th elder heard the report from his clansmen, he was stunned for a long time. When Feng Miao and Old Fire saw this, they could only stand there in a daze, not saying a word. I only found out today that our Feng clan's guards are actually so eloquent. After a long time, the 6th elder suddenly said. Yup. We didn't expect it either, but they're telling the truth. Feng Miao casually echoed. As far as he knew, the words of the guards of the Feng clan were vivid and vivid. Although there was no lack of exaggeration, but at least 80% of it was true. Feng Shao and the 6th elder were also said to be heroic figures who dared to argue with the Feng king for the benefit of the Feng clan, and they were instantly respected and worshipped by the people. However, it seemed that their little 6th did not want to be in the limelight. It seems that our elder council's decision to be on good terms with Lord Lianwu was correct. That lord actually bribed the guards so quickly, he's really not simple. At this time, the 6th elder sighed. In fact, the 6th elder knew very well that some of the clan members had been guessing the truth behind the strike. However, all of the elders had kept their mouths shut. They had also chosen to close one eye to those rumors. They did this not because they wanted to hide the truth for the Phoenix King, but because Feng Tong was still the king of the Phoenix clan. If Feng Tong's reputation was damaged, the reputation of the Phoenix clan would be affected as well. But now, even if they wanted to hide it for the Phoenix King, it seemed that they couldn't. AI. Could this be the will of the heavens? Fortunately, only the members of the Phoenix clan knew the inside story. Otherwise, the Phoenix clan would have become the laughing stock of the divine realm. The 6th elder could ignore the reputation of the Phoenix King, but he couldn't ignore the reputation of the entire Phoenix clan. After sighing, she was conflicted again. This matter must not be spread out. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. When Feng Miao and Old Fire heard the 6th elder's words, they were secretly happy. Their master didn't have a way. It would be strange if any beastie could refuse such a rich person's behavior of directly throwing medicinal pills. However, only his master would dare to do that. If it were anyone else, even if they had that many pills, they would not have the courage to do so. With this thought, the 2 of them were suddenly filled with pride. Chapter 24-24, The Powerlessness of the Phoenix King. 1. After looking at each other, Feng Wuan acted as their representative and said, Little Six is right, but unfortunately, our king doesn't understand this truth. It's really a headache. Yup. When the sixth elder heard this, he also sighed deeply. They could tolerate the fact that the king was lecherous, but sometimes when the king was stubborn, it was really a headache. Moreover, she didn't need to think to know that without the elder's restraint, the king would definitely not put Lord Lianwu in his eyes. However, now that they had all gone on strike, it was useless to think about this. AI. Forget it. It'll just follow the king. She could do whatever she wanted. In any case, the Feng clan's reputation was not as good as it used to be, so how bad could it be? With this thought in mind, the sixth elder decided to go all out. It was her fault for not being able to stop the king's actions. When Old Fire and Feng Miao saw the sixth elder sighing again, they followed suit and sighed as well. However, their feelings were definitely different from the sixth elder's, because they were hoping that the Phoenix King would become a commander without any power. Otherwise, it would be inconvenient for them to move around, right? With that thought in mind, Old Fire secretly gave Feng Miao a look, then probed, if Feng Wu was still here, our Feng clan would never be in this state. Hearing this, the two of them saw the sixth elder's face instantly turn pale. Just as the two of them were confused, they heard the sixth elder say nervously, Don't talk nonsense, why are you mentioning Feng Wu? If this reaches the king's ears, I'm sure you'll be in serious trouble. The sixth elder's warning made the two of them look at each other again. They even thought at the same time that Little Six also knew about the previous Phoenix King. It seemed that none of the elders of the Phoenix clan were easy to deal with. It was just that they didn't show it. With this thought in mind, Old Huan naturally intended to continue his efforts. He deliberately lowered his voice and asked the sixth elder, How much do you know about Feng Wu? Why are you asking this? The sixth elder asked cautiously. Hee. I'm just curious. Old Fire was a little embarrassed. What did Little Six take him for? Did he have to be so guarded against him? Looking at Little Six's expression, he could guess that Little Six should know a lot about the former Phoenix King. You don't have to be curious about this kind of thing. Old Hua, I don't care what you think in your heart or how much you know. You must keep the matter of the former Phoenix King to yourself and don't mention it to anyone. The sixth elder said worriedly. If the king knew that they were discussing the previous Phoenix King in private, the current king would not let them off. All right then. Old Hua replied helplessly. Looking at the sixth elder's cautious expression, he knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of him this time. It seemed like he and Feng Miao still had a long way to go before they could get the sixth elder to defect. At least, it would not be that easy to get past the sixth elder. However, it was fortunate that the sixth elder had a good relationship with the two of them. No matter what he heard from them, he would not reveal it. This way, he and Feng Miao would still be a little safer. However, he truly hoped that the sixth elder would stand on his side. In the Feng clan, other than their own descendants, only Feng Miao was closer to them. They naturally did not want to become enemies with the sixth elder. After this matter was returned empty-handed, Feng Miao was afraid that Old Fire and the sixth elder would feel awkward, so she quickly changed the topic. Old Hua, Little Six, I think we can get ready to go and watch the show. Not now. The sixth elder rejected Feng Miao's suggestion. Ah. Then when are we going out? Old Fire said anxiously. Although they could observe everything in the Phoenix King Palace through their divine sense if they stayed here, it would be easy for the Phoenix King to discover them. Therefore, it would be better to go to the scene and watch the show. Besides, with the sixth elder here, Old Fire truly felt that there was no need for him and Feng Miao to secretly meet their master. The two of them could totally appear in front of their master openly with the sixth elder accompanying them. Thanks, however, Little Six didn't agree to it. Well, go out when King and Lord Lianwu are almost done with their discussion. The sixth elder said after some thought. She was absolutely unwilling to get involved in the grudge between the king and Lord Lianwu. She only cared about the development of the Feng clan. Seeing that the sixth elder had made up his mind, the two of them could only nod in agreement. However, they really felt that the sixth elder was too naive. How could the Phoenix King, that scum, let them go? When the Phoenix King sees that there is no one to use, he will definitely send someone to find them. Sure enough, not long after the two of them thought this, the secret guards of the Phoenix King appeared and conveyed the order of the Phoenix King. After the three of them readily agreed, none of them immediately took action. Instead, they became calmer. At the same time, Len Ruoxue had also brought her men and was approaching the entrance of the Phoenix King's chamber. The Phoenix King, who was in the room, heard the sound of footsteps close at hand and the anger in his heart rushed to his head. Fuck. The elders of the Feng clan actually dared to go on a strike, and she was the last one to know about it. Such an important piece of news, and none of her secret guards had reported it to her. This was preposterous. Looking at the head of the secret guards kneeling in front of him with disdain, the Phoenix King wanted to cut him into pieces. After glaring at the other party, the Phoenix King roared angrily, "Do you think I'm dead? The elders are on strike, why didn't you tell me? King, we're only responsible for your safety. Anything else has nothing to do with us. We can't cross the line, this is the rule you set in the beginning." The leader of the hidden guards said without any shame. "Protect me. Did you protect me?" Hearing the leader's words, the Phoenix King was so angry that he laughed. If these guys had really protected her, how could she have been so badly injured? Thinking of this, the anger in the Phoenix King's heart rose a few more steps. However, after hearing what the Phoenix King had to say, the leader of the secret guards did not panic. Instead, he said calmly, "The king doesn't allow us to get close to him when he's doing business. This is also the rule that the king set in the beginning." The Phoenix King was furious. So she didn't know that the elders really went on strike and that she was injured because of her own actions. This was clearly shirking responsibility. Thinking of this, the Phoenix King was so angry that he shouted again, "What about my secret agents? Were they also mute? Why didn't you tell me about this?" The king said that he would not see anyone. Therefore, the guards followed the king's orders strictly. The king's secret agents could not see the king even if they wanted to. The leader of the hidden guards said matter-of-factly. When the Phoenix King heard this, he almost vomited blood. Fuck. She really didn't know how to describe her feelings at this time, because no matter how she asked, the leader of the secret guards had 100 reasons for waiting for her. More importantly, he said it so reasonably that she couldn't refute it. Who asked her, the Phoenix King, to set many rules? Chapter 24-25, The Powerlessness of the Phoenix King, 2. Could she say that these secret guards were not doing their job well? However, the consequence of these guys doing their job so well was that she, as the king, knew nothing about what happened in the clan. Wasn't this price a little too big? You did that on purpose. The extremely angry Phoenix King took a deep breath and spoke without thinking. When the leader of the hidden guards heard this, he immediately felt wronged. "King, we secret guards have always been loyal to King. How can King doubt us? If King can't even trust the secret guards he personally chose, who else can King trust?" The leader of the hidden guards said very emotionally. Coupled with his fiery red eyes that were filled with tears, it was as if he had really suffered a great grievance. When the Phoenix King heard this, she suddenly felt a suffocating feeling in her chest. She wanted to spit it out, but she couldn't swallow it down. It was only until her pale face turned red that she finally let out this breath of air. After taking a deep breath, the Phoenix King panted and shouted, "From today onwards, your position as a hidden guard is revoked." She didn't need a disobedient leader of the secret guards. Although the words of the leader of the hidden guards sounded very reasonable, she was still unhappy in her heart. She kept feeling that something was wrong. At this time, there were some fluctuations in the air not far from the Phoenix King. Then, a man in black clothes appeared in the Phoenix King's bedroom. The man first glanced at the leader of the secret guards who was kneeling in front of the Phoenix King. After frowning silently, he said directly to the Phoenix King, "Your Majesty, this subordinate has already informed the sixth elder and the other two." "Very good. From today onwards, you are the leader of this king's hidden guards." When the Phoenix King heard the report, he was in a much better mood. "Yes," the black-clothed man replied and then stood to the side. However, after waiting for a long time, the Phoenix King still did not see the sixth elder and the other two appear in her chamber. Instead, Leng Ruoxue did. Looking at the ugly woman who had pushed open the door of her palace and was standing there with a smile on her face, the Phoenix King's heart was filled with anger again. "Damn it! This woman! You're so rude. Don't you know how to knock?" the Phoenix King said in anger. She didn't want to see this woman the most, but she had arrived so soon. "Knock on the door. I want to." However, I'm afraid that it'll disturb the Phoenix King's happy occasion and cause the Phoenix King to be frightened again. "If that happens, it'll be my fault," Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. When the peacocks behind her heard this, they all chuckled suggestively. That laughter greatly provoked the Phoenix King. Thanks, the Phoenix King stretched out her snow-white fingers and said to the two men in black, "Someone has trespassed into this king's palace. Take her down." Hearing this, no matter if it was the former leader of the Hidden Guards or the new leader of the Hidden Guards, neither of them moved. Seeing this, the Phoenix King's anger rose again. "Are you guys deaf? Didn't you hear my order?" The Phoenix King was about to go crazy. Why did she feel that everything was out of her control after a few days of rest? It was fine if the elders were disobedient, but how could the secret guards that he had personally trained dare to disobey his orders? "Your Highness, please calm down. I heard that your secret guards are only responsible for your safety and will only help you when you are in danger. Now that I am not a threat to your life, isn't it natural that they have not helped? Why do you have to make things difficult for them? As the saying goes, nothing can be accomplished without rules. You can't take the lead and break the rules. You must know that secret guards are not attendants or male companions. They have to do whatever you want them to do." Seeing that the Phoenix King was being unreasonable, Leng Ruoxue spoke up for the two pitiful secret guards out of goodwill. Her words had successfully earned the two secret guards grateful gazes. However, the Phoenix King looked at Leng Ruoxue as if she could not wait to kill her. However, Leng Ruoxue didn't care about these things. She casually found a chair and sat down. Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes swept across the room as she asked curiously, "It's rare to see no man serving the Phoenix King. I'm not used to it." You, the Phoenix King pointed at Leng Ruoxue fiercely. She was so angry that she could not even form a complete sentence. Was he mocking her on purpose? How could she be so lecherous that she had to be accompanied by a man wherever she went? "Phoenix King, don't be afraid. I'm not here to fight with you. I just want to seek justice for my little peacock and some compensation." Leng Ruoxue saw that the Phoenix King's face had turned black from anger, so she quickly explained her intentions. She didn't want the Phoenix King to let his thoughts run wild or gather his clansmen to deal with her. If that happened, she would be very tired. Who knew that after hearing her words, the Phoenix King's face became even uglier and he shouted like a crazy woman without caring about his image, "Damn it! What justice do you have to seek? You still want compensation? Humph. No way. No way. Even a window would do. I'm not picky," Leng Ruoxue said in an infuriating manner. After saying this, Leng Ruoxue saw that the Phoenix King's face had turned even darker as if she was willing to. As she laughed in her heart, Leng Ruoxue continued, "While I was in the parasol tree forest, you threatened and teased my little peacock, causing him considerable physical and mental harm. Even now, he still remembers your threat and has nightmares. Therefore, you must compensate me for this. Otherwise, I will report this to God Lord Fog Ripple and beg God Lord to make the decision for me." Leng Ruoxue's words were extremely serious. If others were to see this, they would not think that she was joking. In addition, with the dumbfounded Peacock King by her side, outsiders would believe her words even more. This was the effect that Len Ruoxue wanted. However, the Peacock King's dazed look was definitely not because he was frightened by the Phoenix King, but because he was stunned by his master's shameless words. When did he suffer such a serious injury? When did she have a nightmare? Why didn't he know anything about it? The Peacock King was puzzled, but he also knew that he could not afford to let his master down. Hence, he had no choice but to cooperate with Len Ruoxue in a distressed manner. At the same time, he put on a frightened expression. His skin was relatively fair, and coupled with his expression, he looked like a pale, frightened pretty boy. Even the Peacock tribe members who knew the truth deeply believed their master's words at this moment, thinking that the king had really been frightened. From this, it could be seen how well he had acted. Seeing this, Len Ruoxue gave the Peacock King a satisfied look, as if she was a promising student. Then, she turned to the Phoenix King and said, "Phoenix King, look at how you've scared my little peacock. Ai. How could you have the heart to scare him? Don't you take other people's men seriously? Or do you think that I don't dare to seek justice for my little peacock? Other people might be afraid of you, but I'm not." Her words were so imposing that even the Phoenix King was stunned at first. But very quickly, the Phoenix King reacted and said with a dark expression, "Is the Peacock King really frightened? Then wasn't he a little too timid? You're willing to have such a useless man. Even Lord Wu, I feel wronged for you." Chapter 24-26, The Powerlessness of the Phoenix King. 3. The Phoenix King's words were obviously trying to sow discord. However, she didn't expect that her threat would really scare the Peacock King. Now that she thought about it, she didn't seem to have said anything too serious. Why was the Peacock King so frightened? She couldn't understand it. When Len Ruoxue heard the Phoenix King's provocation, she did not get angry. Instead, she looked at the Peacock Queen considerately and said, "Phoenix King, you're wrong. Your Phoenix clan is the leader of all birds. Isn't it only natural for the Peacock King to be afraid of your threat? It would be abnormal if he wasn't afraid. Don't you agree?" When the Phoenix King heard this, he really wanted to lie to his conscience and say that it was wrong. However, she really couldn't bring herself to say such shameless and quibbling words. After all, her skin wasn't thick to such a profound degree, and all birds were afraid of the Phoenix clan. This was also determined by their nature. If she really denied it, once these words were spread, she, the Phoenix King, would probably be laughed at by all the people and beasts of the immortal realm until their teeth fell off. It could be said that the Phoenix King still had his own pride in some aspects. Seeing that the Phoenix King was not responding, Len Ruoxue could only continue to speak non-stop. "Phoenix King, we are all women. I can understand your thoughts. In your heart, you must not want to see the Peacock King live well. However, if your threat was directed at me, I definitely wouldn't blame you. Who asked us to be love rivals? Which love rival would get along with each other in harmony? But the person you're threatening is my little peacock. You've touched my reverse scale. Thus, I have to make an announcement for my little peacock. I hope you can understand. Otherwise, where would I put my face?" Len Ruoxue's words were absolutely reasonable, and even the Phoenix King could not find any fault with them. Furthermore, Len Ruoxue's words had also struck a chord in her heart. As a strong woman, it was only right and proper for her to stand up for her man. If it was her, and her man was threatened by another woman, she would also seek justice for her man. But now, she was not the one seeking justice, so she felt uncomfortable no matter how she thought about it. Especially when she saw the Peacock King looking longingly at the ugly woman in front of him, the fire of jealousy in her heart burned again. Fuck. He was making eyes at her again. Was he looking for death? The more the Phoenix King thought about it, the more she felt that it was unfair. It should be known that the Peacock King had never shown such a little man's expression in front of her, and she had taken a fancy to the Peacock King a long time ago. Although she had never been able to get him, she could not allow this adulterous couple to be so intimate in front of her. Wasn't this a slap to her face? At that moment, the Phoenix King, who initially thought that Len Ruoxu's words made sense, immediately denied her words. Then, the Phoenix King said to Len Ruoxu in a rage, "You've also said that our Phoenix clan is the leader of the bird clan. Isn't it normal for me to say a few words to him? What was there to be scared of? You must know that not everyone is qualified to be taught by this king. This is his honor." In the face of the Phoenix King's unreasonable words, Len Ruoxue only smiled and said calmly, "Phoenix King, have you forgotten that the peacock race is already mine? It's none of my business if the Phoenix King wants to educate other birds, but it's not your place to educate my people, understand?" "Humph. Even if the Peacock clan is already your people, they are still birds, and are under the jurisdiction of our Phoenix clan. This is the nature of the Beast clan." The Phoenix King quibbled. "It seems that I can't come to an agreement with the Phoenix King." Len Ruoxue smiled faintly after hearing the Phoenix Prince's words. "What, you want to fight? You're only a divine emperor, and these peacocks aren't of much use to you. You'd better think carefully." When the Phoenix King heard this, he felt that this was the prelude to a fight. He quickly warned. "It seems that the Phoenix King really likes to threaten others. However, what I want to say is that the Phoenix King should just take care of yourself. You don't have to worry about us." Len Ruoxue said without any appreciation. "Humph. You don't know what's good for you." The Phoenix King scoffed coldly and shot Len Ruoxue a disdainful look. If it wasn't for her identity, she would have attacked this annoying woman long ago. However, it wasn't too late. Moreover, this was the other party's initiative to stir up trouble, so she presumably couldn't blame her for it. When the Phoenix King thought of this, his mood immediately became better. Who knew that Len Ruoxue would return her gaze and say, "Since I can't come to an agreement with the Phoenix King, then we won't talk anymore. Well, take our leave." With that, Len Ruoxue led a group of dazed peacocks and left the Phoenix clan as if there was no one else present, under the gaze of the similarly dumbfounded Phoenix King. Even after Len Ruoxue left with the peacocks, the Phoenix King was still in a daze and was completely petrified. She couldn't understand how things had suddenly become like this. What was going on? The Phoenix King only reacted when the sixth elder, Old Fire, and Feng Miao arrived. She grabbed the sixth elder's hand and asked angrily, "Where's that bitch Lian Wu?" "King, Lord Lian Wu has already left," the sixth elder said honestly. They had just happened to see Lord Lian Wu leaving with a large group of peacocks at the gate. Although they had met face to face, neither side had spoken, so the sixth elder was somewhat confused about what had happened. After the sixth elder finished speaking, he saw that the Phoenix King's face was like a color palette, white then red, red then green, green then black. Obviously, his king was very angry. Thanks, the Phoenix King was not only furious. She was so angry that she was going crazy. He was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. Fuck. She was already prepared to fight and was planning to teach that bitch Lian Wu a good lesson. Who knew that not only did she not want to fight with her, but she also directly left. This was like a person who had long been prepared for battle, but his punch landed on cotton. How powerless was this? The Phoenix King was depressed. He was still very, very depressed. He felt extremely aggrieved, as if there was a fire burning in his chest, but he couldn't let it out. This feeling was not good. Looking at the silent and sulky Phoenix King, the sixth elder didn't know what to say. Could she say that she was starting to pity the king? Based on her understanding of Wang Ding had intended to make a move, but his opponent had left so easily that she no longer had the best reason to make a move. And if his opponent had not made a move, Wang Ding would not have taken the initiative due to his relationship with God Lord Fog Ripple. As such, the sixth elder concluded that the king must be feeling extremely aggrieved. The tactful sixth elder did not want to be the king's punching bag, so he gave Old Fire and Feng Miao, who were happily watching the show, a look, and the three of them promptly left the Phoenix King palace. Sure enough, when the Phoenix King came back to his senses and wanted to ask the sixth elder about the strike, he couldn't find him at all. According to the guard's report, the sixth elder had left the Phoenix clan with Old Fire and Feng Miao to find natural treasures for healing, and the date of his return was uncertain. Now, the only elder in the Phoenix clan who wasn't in seclusion had also run away from home. When the Phoenix King heard the news, he smashed all the decorations in the Phoenix King Palace in a fit of anger. But what was the use of that? The Phoenix King, who had become the commander of the army, could only sulk alone. However, Old Fire and Feng Miao did not run away from home of their own will. The two of them had been dragged out by the sixth elder. Moreover, it was after they left the royal Phoenix Palace. They didn't even have the chance to return to their rooms before they were directly led out of the Phoenix territory by the sixth elder. The two of them couldn't understand the sixth elder's actions, and they were even more depressed. They were carrying the mission of instigating a rebellion. If they were to leave the Feng clan just like that, how were they going to complete their mission? More importantly, they had only taken a glance at their master previously. Although they were shocked by their master's appearance, she was still their master. He couldn't even say a word to his master. What a great regret. With this thought in mind, the two of them looked at the sixth elder with even more resentment. The sixth elder felt the gazes of the two old men and smiled helplessly. You don't know the king as well as I do. When she comes back to her senses, she'll definitely find trouble with us. So, in order to prevent trouble before it happens, we'd better leave. When are we going back to the clan? Old Fire could not help but ask. I don't know. Well, see. The sixth elder let out a soft sigh, and a trace of worry appeared on his face. Ah. Old Fire was speechless. If they were never able to return to the clan, how were he and Feng Miao supposed to complete this mission? This was the first mission given to them by their master after they had acknowledged him as their master. If they failed, they would be too ashamed to face their master. Old Fire was worried. Feng Miao was also silent. The sixth elder kept sighing. The three aimless old phoenixes were at a loss, not knowing where to go. However, Old Fire still reported his current situation to his master. After Len Ruoxue expressed her understanding, she instructed them to take good care of themselves. Just like that, the three old phoenixes began their wandering life in the god world. At this moment, after Len Ruoxue had left the Phoenix clan and returned to the Peacock clan with a group of peacocks, she was immediately surrounded by a group of peacocks led by the Peacock King. Len Ruoxue burst out laughing when she saw the peacock's anxious expressions. Master, you can still laugh. Isn't it too cowardly of us to leave the Phoenix clan just like that? I'm afraid that the Phoenix King will look down on us even more in the future. The Peacock King said with a face full of hidden bitterness. He had originally thought that his master would have a great fight with the Phoenix King. Who would have thought that after the other party showed their provocative state, they would actually leave with their tails between their legs like a feather? Chapter 24-27, You don't have to rely on force to defeat your enemy. 1. Wasn't this a case of loud thunder and light rain? The Peacock King was extremely disappointed. They were full of vigor and energy as they headed towards the Phoenix clan's territory. Who knew that even if they didn't get justice, how could they leave so easily? Wouldn't this benefit the Phoenix King? That damned Phoenix King would definitely think that they were afraid. However, the truth was that ever since they acknowledged Len Ruoxue as their master, the Peacock clan's morale had been greatly boosted. They had almost forgotten how to spell the word fear. Hence, they could not wait to have a great battle with the Phoenix clan to boost their morale. However, it was clearly impossible now. The Peacock King was disappointed, but he didn't know what his master was doing. The other peacocks wanted to ask but didn't dare to. Hence, they could only stare at Len Ruoxue with resentment. When Len Ruoxue saw the peacock's little expressions, she was indeed laughing quite happily. However, she couldn't help but look at the number of peacocks she had with a resentful gaze. No matter how thick-skinned she was, she couldn't bear the pitiful gazes. After sighing, Len Ruoxue explained helplessly, "What are you guys so impatient for? I didn't say that I would let the Phoenix King go. Don't worry, I will get justice for you." Hearing this, the peacock's spirits were lifted again. The Peacock King looked at his master with a face full of guilt. His eyes were filled with tears, and he said, "Woo! Master, I was wrong. I should have believed you." Even so, the Peacock King couldn't help but ask, "Master, when are we going to attack the Phoenix clan? Now that the elders of the Phoenix kind are not here, it's a great opportunity." Upon hearing this, Langruoshua broke out in a cold sweat. When did this little peacock become so violent? Was this still the beastie that she knew that had a little suffering attribute? This was clearly a male T-Rex. Langruoshua was speechless, but she would never admit that this little peacock had learned to be violent from her. She couldn't take the blame for this. After coming up with an excuse, Langruoshua shot a disapproving glance at the Peacock King and said calmly, "Peacock King, and you little peacocks, Master will give you a good lesson today." After Langruoshua finished speaking, she deliberately paused to see the peacock's reaction. As expected, the peacocks, including the Peacock King, were at a loss when they heard Langruokshua's words. Teach them? What class? Or did they do something wrong, and their master wanted to teach them a lesson? However, it didn't look like their master was going to educate them. They could still feel whether their master was angry or not. Even though the peacocks did not quite understand Langruokshua's words, they all put on a modest front and looked up at Langruoshua, waiting for their master's next words. Langruoshua looked at the cute little peacocks who were waiting to listen to her. Her heart was itching. At the same time, she stretched out her snow-white claws and touched the head of one of the little peacocks. Then, she touched them one by one before she reluctantly retracted her wolf claws. The peacocks were even more confused after being touched. What was Master doing? Thanks taking advantage? Many peacocks thought so, but they did not dare to say it out loud. They could already feel the little white cat's sharp gaze in its owner's arms. It was turning into ice shards and shooting towards them. Sob. That was so scary. After the peacocks sensed the danger, they all moved back in unison to maintain a safe distance from their masters. Master, you. Didn't you want to give us a lesson? Well, be waiting. At this time, an elder of the Peacock clan mustered his courage and said under the encouragement of the other peacocks. Okay, let's start now. Langruoshua was naturally happy to see the peacocks so motivated. After a few coughs, she continued, Today, I'll give you all the first lesson. That is, you can't defeat your enemies by force. Ah. If we don't rely on force, then what should we rely on? An older peacock asked with a puzzled expression. To the beast race, force was the best way for them to show off their strength. Therefore, they really couldn't think of a better way than force. Even though she was interrupted, Langruoshua was not angry. She was also very happy that these peacocks took the initiative to ask her questions. She then patiently explained to this old peacock, of course it's wisdom. When the peacocks heard that it was wisdom, they immediately exploded. They didn't like to use their brains, as it was too tiring. It was better for them to have a direct fight. However, they had to listen to their master's advice. For a moment, the peacocks were at a loss. Master, we beasts are not like humans who like to use schemes and intrigues. It's better for us to take action directly. After a long time, the similarly conflicted Peacock King finally couldn't help but speak. To make the beasts use their brains, wasn't this the same as asking for their old lives? It was possible to make the four king divine beasts use their brains for everything because the four king divine beasts had always been proud and arrogant. They felt that they were not inferior to humans and even wanted to be stronger than humans in every aspect. However, ordinary beasts like them did not have such ambitions and did not want to be in the limelight. To the majority of the magical beasts in the divine realm, as long as they were not bullied by others, had a wife, and had a few children, it was enough for them to live for the rest of their lives. So, what was there to be ambitious about? It was really quite far away from them. If there were conflicts between the beasts and humans, or between the beasts and beasts, the most common solution was to fight. This was the behavior of a man, and it was more satisfying. If the beasts were to become like humans, many of them would die of suffocation. Take action directly. That was the behavior of barbarians. We're all well-bred beastie, so we naturally can't do this. Leng Ruoxue replied matter-of-factly. Ah. The Peacock King didn't know how to react. Could he say that he didn't know many words and wasn't cultured? However, looking at his master's expression, it seemed as if being uncultured was a rather embarrassing thing. Therefore, the Peacock King really didn't dare to say that he was illiterate. Otherwise, he might be despised by his master. Sob. Uncultured child, I can't afford to hurt you. Seeing that the Peacock King seemed to be in a dilemma, Leng Ruoxue continued, actually, I don't mean that you can't directly attack any enemy. It's not a problem for you to directly attack an enemy of equal strength or even lower strength than you. If you have to use wisdom against such an enemy, then I can only say that you are too weak. The enemy I want you to use your intelligence on must be stronger than you. For example, the Phoenix King. With your current strength, it's not quite possible for you to defeat the Phoenix King. As for me, I can't use my full strength now. Otherwise, my identity will be exposed, and my plan will be in vain. Thus, we need to avoid them as much as possible and find an opportunity to catch them off guard. This way, we can obtain the greatest benefits with the least losses. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Chapter 24-28, You don't have to rely on force to defeat your enemy. 2. Master, are you saying that we should launch a sneak attack on the Phoenix King? After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, the Peacock King was stunned for a moment before he replied. I won't ambush you. Leng Ruoxue denied. Then how do we catch them off guard? The Peacock King was even more confused now. He felt that he could not keep up with his master's pace. During this period of time, he had seen with his own eyes how Leng Ruoxue had toyed with the Phoenix King. She had even made up an identity to fool the Phoenix King. Apart from his admiration, he also felt that his master would do this because his master was a human. If he let a beast do this, even the Phoenix King would not have the ability to do so. Most importantly, he did not expect it to be like this. But now, after hearing his master's words, the Peacock King's not-so-smart brain had turned into mush. It's a secret. As long as you know, although I won't confront the Phoenix King directly, I won't let her go. Leng Ruoxue said with a mysterious look. Hearing her words, the peacocks were instantly depressed. The master said that he was giving them a lesson, but in the end, he still kept them in suspense. Wasn't this bullying? One had to know that their curiosity was all piqued. Woo-woo. How could master be like this? The peacock's gazes became even more resentful. However, Leng Ruoxue ignored them and said, as the master, I can't teach you everything step by step like I'm teaching a child. So, the feeling of using my wisdom can only be slowly experienced by you. Now, I'll let May and Baby teach you how to identify ordinary medicinal herbs. Take advantage of the time before we leave and try to pick all the ordinary medicinal herbs in the Phoenix territory for me, your master. Whoever picks the most will be rewarded. After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, she immediately took out the succubus, Baby, Ling, Emo, and a few other beasts from the bangle. The moment these little beasts appeared, they immediately entered the zone and divided the peacocks into a few groups, teaching them separately. When the peacocks heard that there would be rewards, they naturally studied very seriously. On the other hand, many peacocks had a basic understanding of herbs and learned relatively quickly. As soon as they learned it, they immediately scattered like birds and beasts to collect ordinary herbs for their master. Most of the territory in the Phoenix territory was the Phoenix clan's territory. The affiliated beast clans that lived in the Phoenix territory were naturally those that were stronger or had close ties with the Phoenix clan. However, the Phoenix clan only had the Phoenix King as their leader now, and the other beast clans were in Leng Ruoxue's hands. Hence, the peacocks gathered the ordinary herbs that the Phoenix clan did not care about as if they were strolling in their own backyard. Not only did the beasts not stop them, the Eagle clan and a few other beast clans, upon hearing that their masters were interested in those wild grass, also automatically helped to collect them. Their knowledge of medicinal herbs was naturally spread on the spot by the precious beasts. The Phoenix King had also received the news of this situation. However, she didn't take it seriously. The ordinary herbs in the Phoenix territory were almost overflowing. Those things that were not worth much were not picked by any beast on normal days. Therefore, the Phoenix King did not even think about it and guessed that this must be the idea of that ugly monster, Lien Wu. The Peacock clan was about to leave the Phoenix territory. That ugly woman must be short of money to raise so many beasts. Those herbs might not be worth much in the eyes of the Phoenix King, but to human alchemists, they could still be sold for a price. However, to the rich Phoenix clan, that price was too cheap. This was why the Phoenix King was not interested in the common herbs that could be found everywhere. This was also beneficial to Leng Ruoxue. Even though most of these herbs were fire attributed due to the geographical location, Leng Ruoxue needed them as long as they were herbs. She didn't care what attribute they were. After all, she had many fire-attributed beasts by her side. Very quickly, the ordinary herbs in Leng Ruoxue's bracelet had piled up into a small mountain. These herbs were the result of the beast's hard work for a day. When she saw these herbs, Leng Ruoxue could not help but sigh. It was still better to have more beasts. Look at the quality of the work. In order to reward the beasts for their hard work, Leng Ruoxue tried her best to change the food she ate. While the beasts were satisfied with their food, they were also more agile in their work. Thanks, all the beasts worked together for 3 days and finally collected all the ordinary herbs in the Phoenix territory. They didn't even leave a single root for the Phoenix clan. They had picked all of them. Other than being happy, Leng Ruoxue also gave out a few bottles of pills to each of the beasts as a reward. When the beasts saw this, they were all moved to tears. Sob. There's meat to eat if I follow master. There were pills to eat. Leng Ruoxue's heart ached when she saw how easily these beasts were satisfied. These beasts, none of them were sneaky when it came to doing work, but such a small favor made them shed tears of gratitude. They were really a group of honest children. Actually, according to Leng Ruoxue's thinking, since she had already bribed others and given them pills, she would naturally not be stingy with her beasts. The pills that she had given out were not considered precious in her heart. After all, as an alchemist who had no lack of herbs, the most she had were pills. Hence, she did not wish for these beasts to be so excited. As the master, he would not let his beastie suffer losses no matter what. After some thought, Leng Ruoxue said, "Calm down. Don't be reluctant to eat these pills, it'll give you more after you've finished them, so you can eat as much as you want." The pills she gave out were the most suitable for these beasts. Most of them were pills that increased Shen power and could be eaten as snacks. However, with her short understanding of these beasts, she guessed that they would most likely be reluctant to give it up, which was why she said this. Now, when the beasts heard her say this, they were even more excited. Immediately, some beasts couldn't help but take a pill and put it in their mouths. Then, they immediately sat down cross-legged to regulate their breathing. Not long after, that beastie actually advanced a rank in front of everyone's eyes, from a first-rank sacred beast to a second-rank sacred beast. All the beastie beasts were stunned when they saw this. Oh my god! Is this true? He actually advanced just like that. This was simply too unbelievable. After they came to their senses, the beasties went completely crazy. All the beasts opened the bottles and poured the pills into their mouths. Then, they quickly sat down. A moment later, the laws of heaven and earth that had advanced in rank descended one after another. The Peacock clan's territory had become a paradise for advancement. Most of the beasts had advanced in rank. The weaker beasts naturally advanced in rank more, and the beasts had advanced at least 1 rank. After a long time. Only then did the rank advancement craze end. When the beasts woke up, they could not hide the joy on their faces. The beasts were so excited that they couldn't speak. Chapter 24-29, You don't have to rely on force to defeat your enemy. 3. After a while, some of the beasts suddenly reacted. They had eaten all the Shen power pills that their master had given them. Woo-woo. The beasts who had come to their senses suddenly burst into tears. Then, the cries grew more and more. Leng Ruoxue was dumbfounded when she saw this. Ugh! What was this situation? Shouldn't it be a happy thing to advance? She had also benefited a lot from this, but why were these beasts suddenly crying? Could it be that he was so excited that he cried tears of joy? However, the sullen expressions of these beasts definitely did not look like they were crying tears of joy. Leng Ruoxue denied her own guess very quickly. Peacock King, why are you all crying? Leng Ruoxue helplessly glanced at the Peacock King, who was also bawling his eyes out. The Peacock King, who had just advanced from a Class 7 sacred beast to a Class 8 sacred beast, immediately raised his head when he heard his master's question. He said with tears in his eyes, I've finished all the pills that master gave me. The Peacock King was filled with regret. In truth, he was only a step away from becoming a Class 8 Saint God Beast. Even if he didn't eat all those pills, he would still be able to advance in a few hundred years. However, because of his greed, he ate all the pills that increased his divine power. Although he had advanced to the Class 8 Saint God Beast as he had wished, when he thought about how he had eaten all those precious pills in a single moment, his heart ached. Although the Peacock King had acknowledged his master, he had not fully realized that his master was a nouveau riche. Therefore, after the joy of advancing, his heart ached for those precious pills. In the entire immortal realm, the most precious medicinal pills were undoubtedly those that could heal injuries and increase one's divine power. It was precisely because of this that he was unable to let go of his own wasteful behavior. What a precious pill! He had actually finished it so quickly. The Peacock King was so regretful that his intestines had turned green. So what if you finished it all? It's not a big deal. After hearing the Peacock King's reason, Leng Ruoxue didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that these beasts were crying because they had consumed all the pills. She knew it. Looking at how sad they were, it didn't look like they were crying from joy. Master, this is a very serious matter. Those pills are too precious. We shouldn't be so wasteful. After hearing his master's words, the Peacock King was so shocked that his forehead was covered in sweat, but he still didn't forget to remind him. It's fine. I have plenty of pills. I'm not afraid of you losing. Leng Ruoxue said in an unusually forthright manner. After she finished speaking, she felt like laughing. With her current appearance, she was definitely a true nouveau riche. However, in order to appease these beasts, she went all out. They were her beasts anyway, so no one would laugh at her. Ah! Master, you have a lot of beasts around you, so you should be more thrifty. Otherwise, you'll have to sit and eat. When the Peacock King heard his master's words, he quickly began to worry for her. He couldn't help but glance at the beasts present from the corner of his eye. Other than the Peacock tribe, there were also the Eagle tribe, the Condor tribe, and other beast tribes. How many mouths did they have? The owner would really choke on it. The more the Peacock King thought about it, the more worried he became. Among the beasts that his master had taken in, other than the eagle and the condor race, which were the strongest, the other beast races, including his own peacock race, seemed to be lacking in combat power. Thinking about this, the Peacock King was deeply worried. He felt that it was his clan that was dragging his master down. Woo-woo, master. I've let you down. I'm too useless. Our Peacock clan may seem impressive, but we're actually quite weak. When Leng Ruoxue heard that the Peacock King was so considerate of her, she was very touched. However, Tsang immediately told Leng Ruoxue about the Peacock King's thoughts. When Leng Ruoxue heard it, she also felt depressed. This Peacock King's worry was too. Leng Ruoxue did not know how to praise him. He should still be criticized for his distrust of his master. However, after thinking about it, although the little peacock's worry was a little unnecessary, she still had good intentions. She could not reject this favor, but she would feel quite aggrieved. At this moment, Len Ruoxue heard Sang say, "Peacock King, what you said makes sense. Since you have this awareness of being diligent and thrifty, then I'll leave the matters of the beasts to you in the future. You'll be Nyo's beast chief butler, do a good job." "What?" Hearing this, the Peacock King was so agitated that he didn't know how to react. However, Len Ruoxue looked at Sang in astonishment. The meaning behind her words was, "Sang, what are you trying to do? Why did he find her a butler?" Actually, Len Ruoxue had not arranged for anyone to be the head butler. Basically, all the matters around her were handled by Feng De and the others. If Feng De and the others were in closed-door cultivation, someone else would be in charge. All this while, as they were all on the same side, everyone got along very well and did not cause any unpleasant incidents. However, with the increase in the number of people and beasts by her side, Len Ruoxue knew that she couldn't continue to raise them freely. She needed someone to manage them. Otherwise, her life would be in chaos sooner or later. However, she didn't know if her grandfather and the others would be able to adapt if the Peacock King was the head butler. That's right, Sang was talking about the beast chief butler. Could it be that there was also a human chief butler? Thanks. However, no matter what, Len Ruoxue was not optimistic about the Peacock King taking up the position of the head butler, even if it was for her beasts. Len Ruoxue had great foresight. She truly felt that her beasts would not listen to the Peacock King, so Sang's idea would be hard to achieve. Sensing Len Ruoxue's thoughts, Cold One patted his chest and promised, "Girl, don't worry. I'm here. It's precisely because I have you that I'm worried." Len Ruoxue replied with her eyes. No matter how she looked at it, she felt that Sang was playing a trick on the pitiful Peacock King. She was very clear about how wild and unruly her beasts were. She wanted to let the beasts, who had always been free and unfettered, suddenly have someone to control them. Difficult. It was really difficult. It wasn't just difficult. However, since this was Tsang's decision, Len Ruoxue would not interfere. Otherwise, if Tsang Ruo were to get angry, the one who would be in trouble would be her beastie. Thinking about it this way, Len Ruoxue decided to turn a blind eye to it. With that, the Peacock King's identity as the head butler of the Beast clan was finally confirmed. The newly appointed Peacock King had never dreamed that he would become the chief butler of his master beastie. He was so excited that he felt like he was floating as he walked. However, after its master entered the bracelet once and saw all of his beasts, the Peacock King calmed down after being dumbfounded and petrified. Sob. He knew that the kitten was up to no good. Although he had been arranged to be the head butler of his master beastie, there was still the Phoenix clan among his master beastie. Would he dare to interfere? He had always been the one being controlled by the Phoenix clan. Moreover, he didn't expect that his master would have so many phoenixes as his beasts. At first, he thought that his master was already very powerful when she kidnapped Feng Xiu's family of 4 from the Phoenix territory. Now, he knew that he had underestimated his master. He was too short-sighted and could not imagine how powerful his master was. However, what made him quite pleased was that the beastie that had followed him to visit the master's space had only been more petrified than him. After the tour, the clan leaders of the Eagle clan, Condor clan, and a few other beast clans had even requested Len Ruoxue to let them live in the medium in the future. After obtaining Len Ruoxue's approval, the few clans were overjoyed. The Peacock King had the same thoughts as them, hoping that the entire clan would stay in their master's space. However, Len Ruoxue had told them clearly that this was not the time. She still needed the Peacock clan to put on an act with her. Upon hearing this, the peacocks immediately expressed their obedience to their master's arrangement. Just like that, other than the Peacock clan, the other spiritual beasts who had surrendered were all moved into Len Ruoxue's bracelet. However, to the outside world, which was to say to the Phoenix clan, it was said that the spiritual beasts of those clans had all gone into seclusion. When the Phoenix King heard this news, she was instantly furious. In her opinion, this was the time to use beasts. How could these beasts go into seclusion just like that? Even those damned family patriarchs didn't come to greet her personally. They really didn't put her, the Phoenix King, in their eyes. She expressed her anger. The new leader of the Hidden Guards, who was responsible for reporting the news, had a different view on this. He felt that it was understandable for those beasts to choose to go into seclusion since they had just advanced in rank. Otherwise, the consequences of their strength being unstable would be quite serious. After tactfully conveying his thoughts to the Phoenix King finally wasn't so angry. At this time, the Phoenix King remembered something and asked, "Did those spirit beasts advance because they ate that bitch Lien Wu's medicinal pill?" "Yes, I am." The leader of the Hidden Guards replied. "Are her pills really that good? Can you go and exchange a few for me to see?" The Phoenix King said after thinking for a while. "Your Majesty, last time, Lord Lien Wu left in a fit of anger. I'm afraid she won't be willing to trade with our Phoenix clan." The leader of the Hidden Guards said with uncertainty. "Why wouldn't I? She even takes in the common herbs from the Eagle clan. I'll exchange the good ones with her, what's there to be unwilling about?" The Phoenix King said matter-of-factly. She had always thought that the magical beasts of the Phoenix territory had been wantonly gathering ordinary medicinal herbs to exchange for medicinal pills with Leng Ruoxue. This was exactly the illusion that Leng Ruoxue wanted to give her. After those magical beasts had advanced in rank after eating Leng Ruoxue's medicinal pills, the Phoenix King's thoughts became even more intense. If that pill really had such a good effect, that was impossible. There wouldn't be a pill that was so effective. The Phoenix King's heart was in a dilemma. One moment, she wanted to confirm the effects of the pill, and the next moment, she completely denied it. Because she really didn't want to see Lien Wu's proud face. It was really too annoying. Chapter 2430, A Spy, 1. However, no matter how unhappy the Phoenix King was, she still wanted to test the effects of Leng Ruoxue's elixir. After she heard the news, she felt as if a kitten was living in her heart, and it was very itchy. Seeing that the Phoenix King had made up his mind, the leader of the secret guards had to bite the bullet and accept the task. In fact, he really wanted to say, "Your Majesty, this matter is not under our control." However, compared to the previous leader of the Hidden Guards, he was a new official, so he was less courageous. Seeing that this subordinate was so obedient, the Phoenix King was naturally very satisfied. Otherwise, if this new leader of the secret guards were to reason with her, she would be depressed to death. After ordering the butler he trusted to bring some of the best herbs, the Phoenix King handed the herbs to the leader of the secret guards he had just promoted. After taking the herbs, the leader of the secret guards turned and left. However, the leader of the Hidden Guards did not go directly to the Peacock tribe. Instead, he brought some food to the former boss. After the former leader of the Hidden Guards was dismissed from his position, he, who had nothing better to do, other than sleeping, taking a stroll, and playing with the birds. She was just teasing the little phoenix in the clan, and her days were free and unfettered. At this moment, the former leader of the Hidden Guards was repeating his daily schedule as usual. He was playing with a bird. When he arrived at the courtyard of the former leader of the Hidden Guards, he saw the former boss surrounded by a bunch of little phoenixes. The current leader of the Hidden Guards smiled helplessly. This boss was still the same as before. He liked to take care of children. One had to know that these secret guards were all raised by this boss. This had almost become boss instinct. "Boss, I'm here to see you," the current leader of the Hidden Guards said. "Waiter, you've come." A young man raised his head and said indifferently. Hearing these two words, the current leader of the Hidden Guards was completely depressed. "Wu. He has a name, can you not call him Xiao-er?" He felt really awkward listening to her. Seeing the current leader of the Hidden Guards crying, the young man smiled even more happily and said, "What, you all call me boss, aren't you just the second among us brothers? There's nothing wrong with calling you Xiao-er, so don't give me that face." "Boss, I wouldn't dare." When the current leader of the hidden guards heard this, he immediately said with an aggrieved expression, "You don't dare." Then why did he look so bitter? "Do I owe you money?" The young man's face turned serious as he spoke in an unusually serious manner. At this time, the little phoenixes around him saw that the situation was not good and all flew away in fear. "Ha ha ha. Waiter, you're really stupid. I'm just scaring you. Can't you tell? AI. What are you going to do? I'm really worried about your future. Forget it. Forget it. It's better if I work harder and keep an eye on you." With that, the young man became even more unbridled. The cold air in his body was also slightly released. The leader of the hidden guards was dumbfounded when he saw that his boss seemed to have taken the wrong medicine and was really angry. Thanks. After about 3 minutes of silence, the young man suddenly burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha. Waiter, you're really stupid. I'm just scaring you. Can't you tell? AI. What are you going to do? I'm really worried about your future. Forget it. Forget it. It's better if I work harder and keep an eye on you." The young man sighed repeatedly and muttered to himself. After hearing these words, the current leader of the hidden guards was speechless, and his forehead was covered with cold sweat. The boss was playing with him. Sob. Boss is so bad, how can he do this? The current leader of the hidden guards complained. However, he only dared to complain in his heart. He absolutely did not dare to say it in front of his boss. Otherwise, his boss would definitely teach him a lesson. Boss. After thinking about it, the current leader of the hidden guards still pretended to be pitiful and looked at his boss with hidden bitterness. "What's wrong? Is there something you need from me?" The young man said. "Yes." The current leader of the hidden guards nodded his head like a chicken pecking at rice, then looked at the young man expectantly and said, "The king asked me to take these herbs and exchange them for some pills from Lord Lianwu." The young man frowned and said, "This isn't something a secret guard should do, right? How could you agree to such a thing? You'll spoil him like this. The duty of us secret guards is only to protect the king's safety. We don't care about anything else. Have you forgotten?" The more the young man spoke, the angrier he got. In the end, his face darkened. Of course, he wasn't angry at this poor little guy whose face was already pale. He was angry that the king of Qi actually used secret guards as servants. Wasn't this overkill? I didn't want to either. The current leader of the hidden guards lowered his head and said in a low voice. Without his boss' support, he did not dare to disobey the king. Moreover, he did not have the eloquence and strength of his boss, so he could only be led by the nose by king. Now, he did not dare to let the boss know that his secret guards had taken on the role of secret agents. If there was anything, the king required the secret guards to report to her without the slightest concealment. AI. I've protected you too well. Looking at the current leader of the hidden guards, the young man sighed helplessly and sighed. In the past, he had always helped them settle everything. Now, he could no longer help them deal with these things. These little guys naturally had no choice but to let the Phoenix King do as he pleased. After thinking it through, the young man began to blame himself. All this while, he had treated his subordinates like children and neglected other aspects of their education. However, it was fortunate that he had discovered it early, so there should still be time. With this thought in mind, the young man smiled and said, "Waiter, you've just taken over the job of the leader of the hidden guards and have no prior experience, so it's understandable that you'll listen to the king. But you have to remember that we are secret guards responsible for the safety of the king, not guards, not stewards, not the king's servants. Other than protecting the king's safety, we don't need to care about anything else, so as not to waste our energy. Think about it. If the king is attacked by a powerful enemy and is seriously injured while you are helping him, will the clansmen blame us for not protecting the king, or will they blame the king for giving us extra work?" The young man deliberately paused for a moment before he continued. "Boss, I know I was wrong. In the future, I will be like you and will not listen to Wang Yan's orders. Other than protecting the king, I don't care about anything else. After listening to the young man's brainwashing, the current leader of the hidden guards said with extreme shame. He knew that his boss was right. The hidden guards should not indulge in the king's willfulness. Otherwise, if something really happened to Wang, they would probably have to die to atone for their sins. The secret guards also had families. Naturally, no one was willing to pay for the willfulness of the Phoenix King. Therefore, such a thing must never happen again. The current leader of the hidden guards thought to himself. However, he had already agreed to this, so he had to do it. At the thought of this, the current leader of the hidden guards said with a troubled expression, "Boss, I don't care about the future anymore, but I've already agreed to this. What do you think I should do?" "Fine, I'll go with you. However, Lord Lian Wu is not someone who will play by the rules, so I can't guarantee whether she will agree or not." The young man couldn't bear to make things difficult for his subordinate and said after thinking for a while. Chapter 2431, A Spy, 2, Thank you, boss. However, there's no hurry. I've brought food and wine. Let's have a good meal first. The goal had been achieved, and with the help of the boss, the current leader of the hidden guards felt relieved. Woo! With boss around, it was as if he had a pillar of support. His heart was extremely calm. The young man nodded with a smile. After the two finished eating, they slowly made their way to the Peacock tribe. When they arrived at the entrance of the Peacock clan, the young man directly asked to see Lord Lian Wu. When the Peacock guard heard this, he sized them up and told them to wait while he went to report. Seeing this, the young man couldn't help but sigh. AI. The Peacock tribe was different from the past. In the past, when they saw the Phoenix clan, they would directly invite us in. There was no need to report. Boss, when the current leader of the hidden guards heard this, he tugged at his boss clothes, indicating that the walls had ears. These words could not be heard by the peacocks. Otherwise, those peacocks who now had a backer might gang up on him. Who knew that the young man would just smile nonchalantly and say, "Don't worry, I'm telling the truth. Lord Lian Wu won't be so stingy. You're an interesting phoenix." At this moment, a female voice sounded in the young man's ears. When the two heard it, they immediately looked around, but they didn't see any trace of a woman. Seeing this, the current leader of the hidden guards couldn't help but change his expression. "I'm finished." The boss words were caught red-handed. What was this good? If Lord Lian Wu became angry because of this, boss might be in danger, and he might not be able to complete his mission. The Lord wants you to go in. Without giving the current leader of the hidden guards a chance to let his thoughts run wild, the peacock guard who appeared later said directly. "Thanks. Let's go." After thanking him, the young man immediately pulled his slightly dazed subordinate and walked straight into the territory of the Peacock clan. The two of them were so familiar with the Peacock clan's territory that it was like their own backyard. When they arrived at the courtyard where the Peacock King's palace was located, they found Leng Ruoxue sitting there drinking tea. "Hello, Lord Lian Wu." The two of them greeted him politely in unison. "Hello." Leng Ruoxue returned the gesture and invited them to take a seat. She then directly asked them why they were here. When the two of them saw how direct Leng Ruoxue was, they were both a little surprised. However, it was also because of this that the young man had a good impression of her. He liked to interact with people who were quick to do things. After explaining the purpose of her visit, Leng Ruoxue remained silent for a long while. However, her beautiful eyes were sizing up the two of them. Under Leng Ruoxue's gaze, the young man remained as calm as ever. The new leader of the hidden guards felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. The pressure that Lord Lian Wu gave the new leader of the secret guards was too great, even greater than the Phoenix King. This made him feel rather incredulous. How did this happen? Thanks, the newly appointed leader of the hidden guards couldn't figure it out. After sizing them up for a long time, Leng Ruoxue saw that the old and new head of the hidden guards was calmly drinking his tea while the other was breaking out in cold sweat. She stopped teasing them and smiled. It's not impossible to exchange for my pills. However, my pills are very precious. Are you sure you can afford them? I don't know what Lord Lian Wu wants to do with this exchange. After swallowing his saliva with difficulty, the current leader of the Hidden Guards asked carefully. However, the young man didn't ask that. Instead, he said, I can afford it. I can afford it. The Feng clan is very rich. Leng Ruoxue was extremely calm when she heard the two's different answers. On the other hand, the current leader of the Hidden Guards broke out in even more cold sweat when he heard his boss' words. Now, he was very suspicious. Did this boss follow him to ruin his reputation? Otherwise, why would he expose his own weakness before the conditions were agreed? Ah no. It wasn't short, it was their own trump card. They were from the Phoenix clan, right? At this moment, he deeply felt that he was not here to talk about other people's affairs. Since you can afford it, then bring me the herbs according to what is written here. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile, then handed the two of them a piece of paper. After the young man looked at it, he didn't say anything and passed it to his stupid subordinate. The current leader of the Hidden Guards took a quick glance and immediately widened his eyes. Fuck. What was written on it? Although he didn't know many words, he could still recognize most of them. But wasn't the number and name of these herbs a little too much? What he had brought was not even a drop in the ocean of the requirements. His cold sweat instantly increased by quite a bit. His face was even paler. What's the matter? The young man asked. Did you not bring enough herbs? When he said this, he had no intention of avoiding Leng Ruoxue. His voice was not soft either, and in an instant, the current leader of the secret guards was so agitated that he came back to his senses. The current leader of the Hidden Guards looked at his boss with a hint of resentment. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Boss, please wake up. You're a member of the Feng clan, don't ruin my reputation like this. He didn't bring enough herbs, but you should know that. Why did you have to tell him? Being exposed like this, the current leader of the Hidden Guards felt very embarrassed. However, the young man didn't think as much as he did. The young man directly said, if you didn't bring enough herbs, you can go back and get them. The king will not blame you. Hearing this, the current leader of the Hidden Guards regretted asking his boss to come with him. Originally, he thought he was stupid and hoped that his boss would come to boost his prestige and haggle with Lord Lian Wu. However, after this boss came, not only did he not plan to haggle, but he even kept tearing down his stage. Wu. He really wanted to strangle his boss. Yes, I also support you to go back and get it. If the Phoenix King wants to exchange it with me, it's absolutely impossible to do it without paying a lot of money. Leng Ruoxue was still smiling as her beautiful eyes kept on scanning the two men in front of her. She found their interaction to be rather interesting. Sob. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue had said the same thing, the current leader of the Hidden Guards felt that it was hard to back down now. Especially since she had clearly stated that it was impossible for the king to not pay a huge price if he wanted to exchange the pills from her. He didn't know what to say when she was so honest. Call him a profiteer. She didn't beg you to change. You can call him a villain. He had made everything clear. In short, even though he was depressed by Leng Ruoxue's words, he could not find a single fault with her. After hesitating for a while, the current leader of the Hidden Guards stood up helplessly and said, Boss, let's go back first. He had to go back and report this to the Phoenix King, and he knew that the Phoenix King would be furious. Who knew that the young man would listen to his subordinate's words, but he had no intention of returning to the clan at all. He said, you can go back by yourself. I'll wait for you here. Chapter 2432, A Spy, 3. Hearing this, the current leader of the Hidden Guards was a little dumbfounded. What? What kind of situation was this? The boss didn't want to go back with him, but instead wanted to stay with the Peacock tribe? In an instant, the current leader of the Hidden Guards felt as if he didn't recognize his boss anymore. Wu, How could this be? Quickly go back and gather the herbs according to my requirements. I'll treat your boss well. Len Ruoxua joined in the fun. The moment she finished speaking, the current leader of the hidden guards, that poor little thing, turned even paler. Even Len Ruoxua started to pity him. However, he had a boss who was not under anyone's control, so he could only endure it. I'll go back first then. After a long while, the current leader of the hidden guards, that poor little thing, finally spat out these words. Then, he slowly left with his tall and hunched body. There was still a trace of cowering and desolate aura around him, looking quite pitiful. Why didn't you go back with him? After the current leader of the hidden guards left, Len Ruoxua glanced at the young man and asked curiously. He should learn to grow up and learn how to refuse. The young man said honestly. In fact, he still had one thing to say. He was very interested in Lord Lien Wu. That's true. Len Ruoxua nodded her head in agreement. She then reminded, when he goes back, the Phoenix King might use him as a punching bag. Don't be sad when that happens. I watched them grow up and raised them into my secret guards. Now that I've been relieved of my job, I can't continue to look after them, so they have to adapt to living on their own. The young man sighed and said. After saying these words, he was a little surprised. He didn't know why he would say these things to the human in front of him. And these words were said by him inadvertently. Len Ruoxua, who had also heard this, nodded her head in satisfaction. Then, she suddenly asked, Do you know Feng Imo? Feng Imo? I don't know him. Hearing these two words, the young man's heart skipped a beat. However, he quickly calmed down. The flash of panic in his eyes did not escape Len Ruoxua's eyes. You really don't know him? Then you should be familiar with this name. Len Ruoxua asked. I've never heard of this name. The young man denied. Feng Chuan, you don't even recognize your ancestors. Suddenly, an angry voice rang in the young man's ears. Then, an angry woman in red appeared in front of him. When the young man, Feng Chuan, saw this woman, although his heart was already in a state of shock, he still pretended to be calm and asked carefully, May I know which senior you are? This woman gave him a lot of pressure. He was very sure that he did not know this woman. However, the fire attribute aura on this red-dressed woman was unusually strong. This made him have to be careful. I'm the mother parasol tree. Wu Tong said while suppressing her anger. Ancestor. Greetings, ancestor. Hearing this, Feng Chuan immediately knelt down to the mother parasol tree. The excitement on his face couldn't be described with words. He knew that the ancestor of the parasol tree would not die so easily. Feng Chuan was so excited. However, Len Ruoxua was puzzled when she saw Feng Chuan addressing the mother parasol tree as ancestor. This doesn't make sense, right? Seeing through Len Ruoxua's thoughts, the parasol tree explained helplessly, the parasol tree tribe and the phoenix tribe have always accompanied each other. The little phoenixes either grew up on our parasol tree or grew up together with the little parasol tree. So, it's only natural for him to call me ancestor. Does he not doubt your identity? He believed you when you said you were the mother parasol tree. Don't forget, the phoenix tribe has been saying that the mother parasol tree is no longer around. Len Ruoxua could not help but remind him. Hearing Len Ruoxua's words, the mother parasol tree glared at her helplessly and rebuked, Little girl, which side are you on? Are you trying to undermine me? Hee. I'm just curious. Len Ruoxua said, a little embarrassed. If it was her, she would not easily believe the words of others. Listening to the conversation between the two, although Feng Chuan found it very interesting, he still kindly explained, we phoenixes are born with a sense of closeness to the parasol tree, so I felt a sense of closeness when I saw the old ancestor. It was just that I didn't know her identity at first, but my intuition told me that she must be related to me. Thanks, you brat, since you're calling me old ancestor, do you still dare to deny that you know Feng Imo? The mother parasol tree said viciously, as if it was going to destroy him if he denied it. Feng Chuan was helpless when he heard the words of the violent parasol tree grandmaster. After glancing at Leng Ruoxue, he said with a slightly aggrieved tone, "Lord Lian Wu is the divine master's man, of course I can't admit it." "Then why do you dare to admit it now?" Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. "With ancestor Wu Tong here, I guess your identity is definitely not simple." Feng Chuan wasn't stupid. He knew very well how much the parasol tree mother tree hated the mist ripple god lord and the current phoenix king. Naturally, it wouldn't join the two of them in their evil ways. Thus, he naturally had new speculations and ideas about this Lord Lian Wu's identity. "Humph. You're smart. This little girl is Leng Ruoxue." The parasol tree revealed Leng Ruoxue's identity. After Feng Chuan heard this, his eyes instantly widened, and his face was full of disbelief. Leng Ruoxue. Was she the Leng Ruoxue that he had heard of? Leng Ruoxue, the one who has a grudge against God Lord Fog Ripple? After a long time, Feng Chuan couldn't help but ask. He had always been secretly paying attention to Leng Ruoxue's achievements and had thought that one day, he might be able to contact her. Who would have thought that before he could do anything, this Leng Ruoxue, who was rumored to have turned the entire god world upside down, had actually appeared on her own? He saw a living one. At the thought of this, Feng Chuan's eyes widened even more. He sized Leng Ruoxue up and down as if he was trying to see what kind of superhuman abilities she had that could make the entire beast clan panic. Whenever the Phoenix King mentioned her, he would clench his teeth in hatred. But after looking at him, Feng Chuan was obviously disappointed. He had seen Leng Ruoxue's image before, but it was not the same person as the one in front of him. Obviously, the poor child didn't know about the existence of appearance-changing pills in the world. Just as Feng Chuan was still puzzled, Leng Ruoxue nodded calmly and said, "That's right, it's the one who has a grudge against Wu Cheng." "Liar. Leng Ruoxue doesn't even look like you." Feng Chuan, who had always been calm and collected, was suddenly possessed by a baby and complained. "I've taken a disguise pill. Now that I'm here at the Feng clan, you can't possibly ask me to show my true face, right? If that were the case, the Phoenix King would have already attacked me." Leng Ruoxue said helplessly as Feng Chuan's IQ suddenly dropped. The look of distrust on Feng Chuan's face made her even more furious. "Oh. So that's how it is." Feng Chuan nodded. He knew it. No matter how a person dressed up, it was impossible to make themselves unrecognizable. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and asked in embarrassment, "Can you let me take a look at the disguise pill? This is the first time I've heard of this pill." "Sure." Leng Ruoxue felt rather helpless. She then took out a disguise pill and gave it to Feng Chuan. Feng Chuan was curious and ate it without thinking. After that, she bounced around and asked the two of them excitedly, "Forefather, Lord Lian Wu, has my appearance changed?" Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue exchanged a look with the mother parasol tree helplessly. Her eyes were red as she said, "This is the secret you guys have planted?" "Yes." This Feng Chuan, who was normal at first sight but not very normal now, was the secret line that Feng Mo and the mother tree of Wutong had buried. However, the mother tree of Wutong had never looked for Feng Chuan. And that Feng Mo, who was the leader of the secret guards of the previous Feng King, had the foresight to bury Feng Chuan as a secret line after he noticed the abnormality of Feng Tong. In the war hundreds of thousands of years ago, in order to protect the Feng King at that time, he was seriously injured and sealed with Feng Wu. Therefore, Feng Chuan's role as a secret spy was left idle. Feng Chuan, who could be considered smart, in order to hide his identity, had always done his job as the leader of the secret guards and had withstood all kinds of tests from Feng Tong. In general, Feng Tong was quite satisfied with him. The only dissatisfaction was that Feng Chuan was too old-fashioned and always used the rules to do things. Every time this happened, Prince Feng would be angered to death by Feng Chuan. But even so, the Phoenix King was not willing to fire him. But this time, the elders of the Feng clan went on strike, which made the Phoenix King really angry. Feng Chuan happened to become cannon fodder and was severely punished by the Phoenix King. However, Feng Wang felt that he had severely punished Feng Chuan, but Feng Chuan didn't think so. He couldn't wait to be free. Because no one could understand how painful it was to look at and protect one's own enemy every day. There were even a few times when Feng Chuan almost couldn't hold back and wanted to make a move. But at the last moment, his rationality controlled himself. He knew that he could not reveal himself. With his current strength, he was no match for the Phoenix King. Thus, all he could do was to be patient. After finding out Leng Ruoxia's identity, Feng Chuan had been excited for a while. He felt that he had found a companion who asked Leng Ruoxia to have a common enemy with him. However, out of caution, he did not dare to act rashly. He had been secretly collecting information related to Leng Ruoxia. Furthermore, he did not expect to see Leng Ruoxia so soon. He was not prepared at all and had obviously lost his composure. And Leng Ruoxia knew about Feng Chuan's existence because the parasol tree had revealed it to her. Chapter 2433, You're Not Fighting Alone, 1. When Leng Ruoxia first found out that the previous Phoenix King had a trick up her sleeve, she was extremely shocked. It was only after the parasol tree's detailed explanation that she realized that things were not as she had thought. Feng Wu and Feng Tong were sisters. Feng Wu trusted his sister very much and gave her a lot of power. The only ones who felt that Feng Tong was not the same on the surface and abnormal were the mother Phoenix Tree and the leader of the secret guards beside the Phoenix King. However, the two of them knew Feng Wu's character very well. Although they had hinted to the Phoenix King not to give Feng Tong that much power, it was a pity that the Phoenix King didn't care. In the Phoenix King's heart, Feng Tong was her only sister. How could she harm her? When Leng Ruoxia first heard about this, she had already expressed her disapproval of Feng Wu's low vigilance. She truly felt that the Phoenix King was too stupid and too naive. One must know that sometimes, the knife of a family member was much sharper than the knife of an enemy. More importantly, one could defend against the enemy's saber, but not the saber of one's family. However, Leng Ruoxia was also clear that this matter could not be entirely blamed on the Phoenix King. It could also be that this little sister of hers was too good at acting, to the point that the wise Phoenix King that the parasol tree spoke of did not notice at all. In short, for her to fall for the trap of her kin, she must have some sort of weakness. For example, the trust in family, the desire for family, and so on. When she thought about it this way, Leng Ruoxia felt a little more sympathy for the previous Phoenix King on account of Feng Zhan. After all, if it was possible, no one would be willing to be plotted against by their own family. It was precisely because of this that she was more interested in the hidden spy that the parasol tree had mentioned. She also had more expectations. But now, it seemed that she had been looking forward to it a little too early. Or could it be that this child was under too much pressure, so he had gone crazy? Looking at Feng Chuan, who was still jumping around excitedly, Leng Ruoxia couldn't help but glance at the mother parasol tree. The other party also returned her a helpless look. The two of them sighed at the same time, expressing that they were powerless to comment on Feng Chuan's actions. After a long time. After finding the organization, Feng Chuan, who was extremely excited, finally calmed down. As soon as he calmed down, Feng Chuan immediately felt embarrassed. He also knew that his reaction just now was a little abnormal, but he did not know what was wrong with him to actually do such an embarrassing thing. AI. Please understand that after being alone for so many years, the moment he heard that he also had a backer, he became abnormal. Leng Ruoxia's eyes softened as she looked at Feng Chuan. Poor kid. Leng Ruoxia expressed that she could understand his agitation. He was not fighting alone. With that thought in mind, Leng Ruoxia revealed a kind gaze as she looked at a junior and said, "Welcome to my pirate ship. You're not fighting alone. Hee hee. I'm very happy too." When Feng Chuan heard that Leng Ruoxia wanted to join them, he was immediately excited. However, he seemed to have heard the word pirate ship, or did he hear it wrong? Thanks, a pirate ship. Feng Chuan was a man of action. If he had any questions, he would ask them. So, these two words became his biggest doubt at the moment. Leng Ruoxue looked at Feng Chuan, who seemed to be slow to react, and felt worried. Was this guy really the leader of the secret guards that the parasol tree had mentioned? In her opinion, Feng Chuan's IQ was obviously not high enough. At least, he couldn't be compared to Feng De and the others. Look at his silly and cute little appearance now. Oh. She was quite cute. Sung, who often peeked at Leng Ruoxue's inner thoughts, heard Niu say that this guy was quite cute and instantly lost his good impression of this phoenix. At the same time, he glared at the innocent Feng Chuan. This guy is cute. Which part of her was cute? Was he as cute as she was? Sung couldn't help but secretly praise him and made up his mind. As long as there was a chance, he would let this guy understand what true cuteness was. It wouldn't allow any beast to fight for its favor. It couldn't win against that annoying man, but it couldn't win against these beasts, could it? At this time, Feng Chuan, who had been slow to notice, also clearly felt the unfriendly eyes of the little white cat in Leng Ruoxue's arms. He was confused. He really didn't know what he had done to provoke this little cat. He also saw the little cat waving its sharp claws at him. The subtle interaction between the two of them could not be hidden from Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree's eyes. However, the two of them chose to ignore it. Leng Ruoxue did not intend to participate in the exchange of feelings between Sung and the spirit beasts. The parasol tree mother tree knew that it could not afford to offend Senior Tsang, so it had no choice but to remain silent. Ahem. After a long while, the mother parasol tree coughed and changed the topic. Feng Chuan, we're planning to leave Phoenix territory in a few days. What's your plan? Leave the Phoenix territory? Where is the ancestor going? Feng Chuan looked at the mother parasol tree with a face full of question marks. We're leaving with this little girl. We'll be by her side from now on. The mother parasol tree replied honestly. Arg. Old ancestor, who are you all including? Feng Chuan asked the most important question. We, the sycamore tree tribe. The mother parasol tree said with a smile. She felt that her decision was rather wise and brilliant. Then what about our Phoenix clan? When he heard that the entire sycamore tree tribe was going to leave with Leng Ruoxue, Feng Chuan started to get anxious. Although the Phoenix tribe was not welcomed by the parasol tree now, as long as the parasol tree was still in the Phoenix tribe would still see hope and wait for the day when they would be accepted, right? But what Feng Chuan didn't expect was that after all the elders went on strike, the parasol tree tribe also wanted to move collectively. Was he going to abandon the Phoenix clan completely? It wasn't hard for Feng Chuan to imagine what the Phoenix clan would be like without the help of the Phoenix tree. Woo! How could the old ancestor leave just like that? More importantly, he knew that with the old ancestor leading the way, no parasol tree would be willing to stay. Thinking of this, Feng Chuan was even more afraid, because he knew that the old ancestor was definitely not joking. Cold. What does it have to do with me? What happens to the Feng clan? The current Phoenix kind is no longer the Phoenix kind that we used to be. Therefore, we, the parasol tree clan, will no longer serve the Phoenix kind. The mother parasol tree said disapprovingly. Forefather, many Phoenix kind people are innocent. Feng Chuan couldn't help but remind her. So what? They were all brainwashed by Feng Tong, and our Phoenix tree clan is loyal to Feng Wu. Therefore, I want help Feng Tong cultivate her power. Of course, if a phoenix is willing to forsake the darkness for the light and acknowledge this little girl as her master, I'm still very willing to accept them. The mother parasol tree made it very clear. When Feng Chuan heard this, he knew that the mother parasol tree had already made up her mind and it would be difficult to change it. He couldn't help but turn his gaze to Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue understood what Feng Chuan meant. He just wanted her to help persuade the mother parasol tree. However, Leng Ruoxue wasn't that kind. What she wanted to say was similar to what the parasol tree mother tree had said. I have the same idea. Unless a phoenix is willing to forsake the darkness for the light, I support the parasol tree mother tree to cut off their food. Chapter 24-34, You're Not Fighting Alone. 2. Hearing Leng Ruoxu's words, Feng Chuan knew that there was no point in saying anything more. He couldn't help but sigh on behalf of the abandoned Feng clan and fell silent. After a while, the mother parasol tree asked again, Feng Chuan, are you going to leave with us or stay in the Feng clan? I'll leave with you for the time being, Feng Chuan said after some thought. Although the parasol tree elder had shown that he had absolute trust in Leng Ruoxue and he was also aware of Leng Ruoxu's identity, he still wanted to observe Leng Ruoxue from a closer distance. At the same time, he wanted to see where the parasol tree tribe lived. Otherwise, he would not be at ease even if he stayed in the Phoenix tribe. That's good, you're free now anyway. The mother parasol tree nodded. I wonder when old forefather and the others are planning to leave. Feng Chuan asked again. In 2 or 3 days. Leng Ruoxue replied. What about the pills that you want? Feng Chuan didn't finish his sentence but he believed that Leng Ruoxue would understand what he meant. She probably couldn't bear to give me the types and quantities of herbs I asked for. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Feng Chuan was a little speechless. The Phoenix King would definitely be reluctant. However, he could also tell that Leng Ruoxue most likely knew that the Phoenix King would be reluctant to part with her, so she had deliberately given such a condition. It was a pity that the waiter was going to suffer. With a sigh, Feng Chuan silently expressed his sympathy for the waiter, but he couldn't do anything about it. Just as Feng Chuan had expected, the current leader of the Hidden Guards returned to the Phoenix clan and reported Leng Ruoxu's conditions to the Phoenix King. The Phoenix King's expression changed drastically and he flew into a rage. Her anger was even greater than what the current leader of the secret guards had expected. Her face was blacker than the bottom of a pot. The huge Phoenix Palace had been immersed in low air pressure because of the anger of the Phoenix King. Around the palace, many little phoenixes were trembling. From the aura, the little phoenixes knew that this was the king's aura, and the king was very angry. Although the little phoenixes wanted to hide and not be affected by the king's anger, they were too weak to withstand the king's pressure. All of them were suppressed to the point that they did not dare to move. Your Majesty, please calm your anger. The current leader of the Hidden Guards, who was also pale, gathered his courage and said. He was the closest to the Phoenix King, so he was naturally injured by the aura that the Phoenix King emitted. However, he was mentally prepared, so his injuries were not serious. However, the other clansmen were not prepared. He didn't want the king's anger to be directed at his clansmen. That would be a huge disaster for the Phoenix clan. Calm your anger. How can I calm my anger? The Phoenix King, who was sitting on the throne, roared in anger. The anger that was emitted from her body was almost tangible. King, if you don't agree to the other party's conditions, then we won't do this business. There's really no need to be angry. You have to know that anger is harmful to the body. You are angry right now, but the other party not only doesn't know, but may even watch a good show. So I feel that we can't be fooled by Lord Lian Wu. The current leader of the Hidden Guards tried to persuade him. It had to be said that he was quite clever. He knew that the Phoenix King was most concerned about Lord Lian Wu's reaction, so he directly started from this aspect, which really made the Phoenix King calm down and think. That's right. The more angry she was, the happier that annoying woman would be. Humph. He must not be fooled by the other party. With this thought in mind, the Phoenix King slowly calmed down, and the anger in his body also subsided. The little phoenixes who felt the pressure had lightened quickly took the opportunity to leave the place. If they stayed any longer, they would probably lose their lives. Thanks however, although the Phoenix King had calmed down for the time being, she was still very unhappy. She felt that she had already put down her status and wanted to exchange medicinal pills with that hateful woman. How could that hateful fellow not give her face? He really didn't know what was good for him. It had to be said that the Phoenix Prince was a rather selfish person. She thought that she had put down her pride, but would Leng Ruoxue think so? The answer was no. Moreover, Leng Ruoxue didn't think that the Phoenix King had lowered her status just because she wanted to exchange for another pill. How could there be such a cheap thing in the world? Of course, the Phoenix King was not clear about Leng Ruoxue's thoughts. Otherwise, she would be even angrier at Leng Ruoxue's insensitiveness. At this moment, the Phoenix Prince was racking her brain to think of Leng Ruoxue's faults and comparing it to her own compromise. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that Leng Ruoxue shouldn't have done that. However, Leng Ruoxue could not care less about what she was thinking. But the Phoenix King cared. The more Leng Ruoxue deliberately made things difficult for her, the more the Phoenix King wanted to know the effects of those pills. Sometimes, she even wondered if the effects of those pills were not as good as she had imagined, which was why that damned woman was not willing to exchange with her. With this thought in mind, the Phoenix King's determination to get those pills grew even stronger. However, how could he obtain those medicinal pills without spending a lot of money? She was extremely unwilling to exchange pills with the other party according to the requirements on the list. The current leader of the Hidden Guards saw the Phoenix King's frown from time to time. However, he didn't want to interrupt at this time, in case he was treated as cannon fodder by the king again. The current leader of the Hidden Guards, who didn't want to be cannon fodder, held his breath and tried to lower his presence. After a long time, the Phoenix King finally responded. Go and tell that bitch Lien Wu that I've agreed to use the items on the list to exchange for her pills. The Phoenix King gritted his teeth and said. The current leader of the Hidden Guards was obviously stunned when he heard this. He did not expect the king to agree. And it was after thinking about it for so long. This was really too unbelievable. One had to know that he was very curious as to why the king had changed his mind. However, he did not dare to ask such a question, because he could see that the king did not look very good. Yes. After being stunned for a moment, the current leader of the Hidden Guards immediately reacted. He turned around and was about to leave. Wait, tell her that I need 3 days to gather all the herbs. Tell her to come to the Feng clan to get them herself. After calling out to the leader of his secret guards, the Phoenix King was so angry that he gritted his teeth so hard that they were about to break. His voice was also squeezed out from the gaps between his teeth. Yes, the current leader of the Hidden Guards replied. He immediately headed to the Peacock clan. When Leng Ruoxue heard this news, she was stunned for a long time. Never in her dreams would she have thought that the Phoenix King would actually agree to her conditions. What had provoked the Phoenix King? If he had known that she would agree, he would have asked Qing Ju to write more. Leng Ruoxue truly regretted it. However, she also believed that if she wrote more medicinal herbs on it, the Phoenix King would not agree even if he died. But now... Sigh. Why did he feel a little depressed when the Phoenix King agreed? Could it be that she had guessed it wrong? Chapter 2435, You're Not Fighting Alone, 3, Leng Ruoxue believed that this was definitely not the reason. She wasn't arrogant enough to think that everything was within her calculations, so why would she be depressed? After thinking for a long time, Leng Ruoxue finally understood. She didn't want to exchange the pill with the Phoenix King at all. Right. This must be the reason. Leng Ruoxue, who felt that she had thought things through, raised her head and saw the current leader of the secret guards, as well as Feng Chuan, who was still in disguise, staring at her. What are you still doing here? Leng Ruoxue glanced at the leader of the Hidden Guards and asked in confusion. Wasn't the little phoenix supposed to be here to pass on a message? Now that she knew, why was this guy still here? She had thought that the phoenix had already returned. The current leader of the secret guards, who had been ignored for a long time, was speechless for a long time. He thought to himself, he has always been here, okay? I want to ask, where's my boss? After hesitating for a moment, the current leader of the Hidden Guards asked. What? Leng Ruoxue looked at the dumbfounded head guard and then at Feng Chuan, who had just regained his senses. She asked him with her eyes, doesn't he know you are him? Feng Chuan gave Leng Ruoxue an innocent look. He was also shocked by the fact that the Phoenix King had agreed. How could he have the chance to say that he was their boss? Moreover, he really felt that he shouldn't scare the waiter anymore. Otherwise, if the waiter knew that he had changed his face, he would be scared half to death. Leng Ruoxue could tell from Feng Chuan's expression that he didn't want the other party to know. So, she could only helplessly say, "Your boss has already returned to the Feng clan. Didn't you see?" Leng Ruoxue was very serious when she said this. The current leader of the hidden guards didn't doubt her at all because he felt that there was no need for Lord Lian Wu to lie to him. As soon as he heard that his boss had gone back, he also quickly left. The moment the current leader of the hidden guards left, Leng Ruoxue glared at Feng Chuan and said, "You're not leaving? That little fellow will definitely come and find you." "Yes, I have to go back and make some arrangements." "Where should we gather?" Feng Chuan nodded and asked. "There's a small mountain 1,000 m away from Phoenix territory. Do you know that place?" Leng Ruoxue told them the rendezvous point that she had agreed to meet Demon and the others at. "Yes." Feng Chuan nodded. Then, he asked Leng Ruoxue for the antidote for the disguise pill and left the Peacock clan. The moment the two of them left, Leng Ruoxue immediately took out the mother parasol tree from her bracelet. The parasol tree mother tree thought that Leng Ruoxue was looking for it for an urgent matter. Who knew that Leng Ruoxue would only look at her calmly and asked, "Senior, do you know where the Phoenix clan's treasures are kept?" "What?" The mother parasol tree was stunned for a moment before it reacted. "Little girl, could it be that you're thinking of getting your hands on the Phoenix clan's treasure?" "Yup. I should at least prepare some gifts for my beastie. Don't you think that all the treasures of the Phoenix clan should be inherited by Feng Zhan?" Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Of course, by taking away the treasure of the Phoenix clan, she could also make the Phoenix King have no medicinal herbs to exchange for medicinal pills with her. This was also what she had planned for a long time, but she had not taken action yet. When the parasol tree heard Leng Ruoxue mention Feng Zhan, it nodded its head and said, "That's right. All the treasures of the Feng clan belong to Feng Wu. It's only right that Feng Zhan, that little fellow, inherit them. I know where the Phoenix clan's treasure vault is. However, there are many traps there. I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to enter without alerting Feng Tong." The mother parasol tree continued. She could not help but shiver at the thought of the traps in the treasure room of the Phoenix tribe. Those traps were all designed by a cunning old phoenix in the Phoenix tribe. They were definitely a trap. "With Tsang here, I'm not afraid." Leng Ruoxue saw that the mother parasol tree was gritting her teeth when it mentioned that area. Even though she did not understand the reason, she was smart enough not to ask. When Tsang heard Leng Ruoxue's words, he raised his snow-white claws and said, "Girl, there's no need to ask this old tree. I can find the treasure vault of the Phoenix clan. You have to believe in my ability." "Ah. I just wanted to save you some trouble," Leng Ruoxue explained helplessly. Of course, she believed in Tsang's ability. However, with a spy in the Phoenix clan, was there a need for Tsang to look for him? It would be a waste not to use such a convenient resource. The mother parasol tree listened to the conversation between the man and the beast and was deeply worried. Why did she have the thought that she would be led astray by them one day? This was too terrifying. The mother parasol tree did not dare to think further. However, she was quite clear that with Senior Tsang, who was famous for his destructive nature, if he really found the treasure room of the Phoenix tribe, it would not be able to be preserved. No. That treasure room was the fruit of Feng Wu and a certain someone's wisdom. They only needed to take the treasures. She would do her best to protect the treasure room. With that thought in mind, the mother parasol tree urged him anxiously, "Little girl, when are we leaving? There's no time like the present, let's do it now." Leng Ruoxue saw how anxious the mother parasol tree was and decided to play along. "Thanks, alright, let's go then." With that, the mother parasol tree pulled Leng Ruoxue along and prepared to leave. "Wait, Senior. You can't go like this. Also, you have to restrain your aura." Len Ruoxue hurriedly called for the mother parasol tree to stop. She had only found out today that the mother parasol tree was still an impatient person. Ah. Then how do we go? The mother parasol tree stopped in its tracks and looked at Len Ruoxue in confusion. At the same time, it retracted its aura. Len Ruoxue took Ling out from the bangle and instructed, "Ling, make us invisible." "Yes, master." Ling Ying said, and at the same time, he cast an invisibility technique. Before they left, Len Ruoxue especially went to inform the Peacock King so that the little peacock wouldn't be anxious when it couldn't find them. However, when the Peacock King heard that his master was going to the Phoenix clan's treasure vault, his thoughts immediately became active and he strongly requested for his master to bring him along. In fact, the Peacock King had been longing for his master's invisibility for a long time. Now that he had such a good opportunity, how could he let it go? Especially since the place they were going to was an important place of the Phoenix clan. He had long heard that there were many rare treasures there, so he naturally wanted to see it first. The mother parasol tree was extremely unwilling to bring along this child who was a burden. However, Len Ruoxue's heart softened when she saw how pitiful he was. She agreed to bring along the Peacock King who was looking at her with a pitiful expression. As a result, the mother parasol tree complained that she had pampered her beastie too much. Len Ruoxue laughed nonchalantly and thought to herself, if she doesn't pamper her own beastie, who else would she pamper? Just like that, he brought along Len Ruoxue, who was a burden, and the mother parasol tree, and headed to the Phoenix clan in high spirits. On the way, the mother parasol tree introduced the treasure vault of the Phoenix tribe. There were 2 treasure rooms in the Phoenix clan. One of them was used to store rare and precious treasures, while the other was used to store precious natural treasures and precious ores. When the mother parasol tree asked Len Ruoxue which one they were going to first, Len Ruoxue didn't even think and directly said that they were going to the one with the herbs. Who asked him to be an alchemist? The thing he was most interested in was, of course, the herbs. Oh right, he was also a blacksmith, so ores were also quite important. Although the time she spent on refining weapons was much less than the time she spent on refining medicinal pills. However, after hearing Len Ruoxue's answer, the mother parasol tree frowned deeply. Finally, she could not help but remind her, "Little girl, are you sure? That place isn't the most precious place for the Phoenix clan." I'm sure, and I'm certain. I'm very interested in that place, but I'm not that interested in the other treasure room. Len Ruoxue said honestly. Little girl, I always thought you knew a lot about treasures. Today, I know that you're an outsider. The mother parasol tree was deeply helpless. Although she knew that this little girl was only using Feng Zhan's name to empty out the Feng clan's treasure vault, she didn't mind. After all, Feng Zhan had acknowledged this little girl as his master. This girl had done a great favor to the Feng clan, and she would find a way to save Feng Wu in the future. So, she really felt that it was reasonable for the Feng clan to give her the treasure. This was the Feng clan's reward in advance. Besides, even if she didn't do this favor now, Feng Zhan, that ungrateful little fellow, would still want to give all his good things to this girl. Since he knew this, why not do her a favor? In addition, she really didn't want the Feng clan's treasure to fall into the hands of that bitch Feng Tong. That would make her depressed. After comparing the two, she was smart enough to choose Len Ruoxue. However, this little girl's taste really made her speechless. Those medicinal herbs were not worth much money at all. The most valuable things were in the other treasure room. What if? She was saying, what if Feng Tong found out about their theft? At that time, that bitch would definitely be more vigilant. At that time, if they wanted to go to the other treasure room to steal something, it would not be so smooth. However, Len Ruoxue was completely unaware of the mother parasol tree's internal struggle. As for Azure, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. It was just the Phoenix clan. What's the big deal? If they really startled Feng Tong, at worst, they would just rob her openly. One had to say that Sung's bandit attributes weren't light. Just like that, while the mother parasol tree was in a dilemma, she still brought Len Ruoxue, Song, and the Peacock King to the treasure room where the herbs and ores were kept. When they reached the door of the treasure room, Len Ruoxue was surprised to find a formation that was in operation. After observing for a while, Len Ruoxue could not help but ask, "Who set up this formation?" The formation in front of him looked very simple, but it was quite exquisite. It was not difficult to see that the person who set up this formation was also a person who had studied formations. "It's the high priest of the Phoenix tribe." The mother parasol tree gritted its teeth and said in an evil tone. Chapter 2436, It feels good to have someone caring for you. 1. The high priest of the Phoenix tribe. Len Ruoxue was not unfamiliar with these words. However, from the tone of the parasol tree's voice, could it be that there was a story between the mother tree and the Phoenix tribe's high priest that had to be told? Len Ruoxue's curious gaze drifted towards the mother parasol tree, causing the mother parasol tree to fly into a rage. This girl's gaze was too. At the thought of this, the mother parasol tree could not help but roar in anger. "Bad girl, what's that look in your eyes? I'm really going to die of anger." The mother parasol tree was furious. The consequences. However, the consequences weren't too severe. As soon as she finished shouting, Azure's icy glare landed on her body, causing the mother parasol tree's heart to tremble in fear. Sob. How could she have forgotten about Song? This was such a huge low-level mistake. She shouldn't have ignored Song's existence just because he looked like a harmless kitten. But now, he had just shouted at his master, and Senior Azure was furious. The sudden change made the mother parasol tree instantly act like a mistreated little wife. It lowered its head in grievance, and its beautiful dark green eyes were still filled with tears. Len Ruoxue was also shocked by this scene. She did not expect the parasol tree mother tree to have such a side to it. This was really too unexpected and also very scary. However, Len Ruoxue only looked at the mother parasol tree in disbelief for a short while before shifting her attention to the array. Coincidentally, she saw the Peacock King extending his claws towards the array out of curiosity. She was so frightened that she quickly stopped the Peacock King. "Little Peacock, don't do anything stupid." Len Ruoxue broke out in cold sweat from the Peacock King's audacious actions. However, the Peacock King replied in an extremely aggrieved manner, "I want to help you break the formation." Len Ruoxue was stunned when she heard that. Did she hear wrongly? This little peacock said that she would help them break the formation. Does he also know about formations? You know about formations? Len Ruoxue, who couldn't believe it, took a long time to react and ask. "I know a thing or two. Master, let me try. I'm very interested in the formation that the high priest of the Phoenix clan set up." The Peacock King pleaded as tears welled up in his eyes. "Ah. All right." Len Ruoxue's heart softened when she saw the Peacock King's pleading face. However, she was more shocked than surprised by this Peacock King who knew how to use arrays. One had to know that beastie who knew how to use arrays were rare, but in such a short time, she had already heard two. One of them was the high priest of the Phoenix tribe, and the other was the Peacock King. Following that, Len Ruoxue watched as the Peacock King's delicate and snow-white fingers moved about, forming a series of hand seals in midair before floating towards the center of the array. After about half an hour, the exquisite formation outside the door became dimmer and dimmer. 10 minutes later, the light of the formation weakened and gradually extinguished. "It's done," the Peacock King said with sweat all over his head. Breaking a formation was really a matter that consumed a lot of physical strength and divine power. He felt that he had never been so tired before, not even after running for hundreds of thousands of meters. That's right, when he felt aggrieved, he would run around Phoenix Ridge. When he was tired from running, he would stop and then have a good sleep. This way, he would forget his troubles. Of course, most of the time, he rarely had any troubles, and his troubles were basically created by the Phoenix King. Therefore, every time the beasts of the Phoenix territory saw the Peacock King acting rashly, they would know that he was being harassed by the Phoenix King again. Every time he thought of this, he would feel depressed. Thanks as he recalled his tragic past, the Peacock King instantly became listless. Leng Ruoxue thought that the Peacock King was tired from breaking the array. After instructing him to rest well, Leng Ruoxue began to observe the array that the Peacock King had broken. The formation had truly been broken. Furthermore, the process of the Peacock King's decoding of the array was also recorded in her mind. Leng Ruoxue carefully recalled that every step of the Peacock King's was very compact. There was not a single waste or unnecessary art. She really didn't expect that the Peacock King actually had such talent. It seemed that she had picked up a treasure. After Leng Ruoxue's initial shock, her heart was filled with joy. She knew it. His beastie was definitely extraordinary. The mother parasol tree, which had its head lowered all this while, had also raised its head at some point. It looked at the array that had been broken and its face showed a dazed expression. That. Could she say that she knew how to dispel the array at the door? The mother parasol tree shrunk her neck. This thought had just appeared in her heart, but she quickly suppressed it. Woo! She did not dare to say it out loud. She was afraid that this little girl would fly into a rage if she said it. Just now, she had only cared about her sorrow and had not thought that the quick-handed Peacock King would be the first to undo the defensive array outside the door. But what she had not expected even more was that this seemingly unremarkable, weak little Peacock King was actually an array master. To be able to undo the formation of that hateful old priest. He was definitely not simple. The mother parasol tree was stunned. Her beautiful eyes first looked at Leng Ruoxue, then stopped at the Peacock King. At this moment, Peacock King had just taken a pill to recover his divine power and was adjusting his breathing. However, the gaze that fell on him was too intense. Peacock King's entire body was burning. The Peacock King had no choice but to open its bright eyes. When it realized that it was the mother parasol tree that was staring at it, the Peacock King tactfully swallowed the words that it was about to ask. It remained silent and unconsciously moved closer to its master. Master, please protect me. This old woman looks like she wants to eat your little peacock. It was too terrifying. Woo! After receiving the message from the Peacock King's eyes, Leng Ruoxue could not help but wipe the cold sweat off her forehead. She then picked up the little Peacock King, who had already recovered his energy and was glowing with health. She gave the mother parasol tree a look and led the way into the secret room. Entering the secret chamber, Leng Ruoxue was dumbfounded. What was this? Leng Ruoxue was speechless as she looked at the colorful, operating small-scale formations. This was because every place that she could see, or it could be said that every place where the herbs and ores were placed, was protected by a small and exquisite array. If she wanted to take away those herbs and ores, it was not impossible, but she had to remove the array one by one. This secret room was not small, and the herbs and ores inside were piled up like mountains and scattered all over the secret room. There were at least 8,000, if not 10,000, of these small protective arrays. How long would it take to solve them? Was this the pace of exhaustion? Leng Ruoxue was deeply worried. After being in a daze for a long time, she slowly reacted and pulled the equally dumbfounded mother parasol tree over, asking, "These formations were set up by the high priest of the phoenix kind? Is he trying to tire the thief to death?" Chapter 24:37, It feels good to have someone caring for you, too. Yes, little girl, you're right. When the high priest was responsible for the construction of these two secret rooms, he had said that whoever dared to steal from the Phoenix clan would be exhausted to death. If the thief didn't die from exhaustion and even managed to steal the treasure of the Phoenix clan, then it's his good fortune and the Phoenix clan will definitely let bygones be bygones. The mother parasol tree explained in a low voice after wiping the cold sweat off her forehead. Leng Ruoxue expressed her helplessness. The Peacock King, who was initially excited, had turned numb after seeing so many formations. Previously, breaking a single formation had already used up a third of his divine power and physical strength. Now that there were so many formations before him, the Peacock King was certain that he would be exhausted to the point of spitting blood. By the way, little girl, you must be careful in cracking this array because there are traps in these arrays. If you make one wrong step, then the whole secret room's trap will be activated, and at the same time, it will also alert that slut Feng Tong. So, you must be careful. After observing Leng Ruoxu's slightly ugly expression, the mother parasol tree carefully reminded her. She had no idea how to break the array here. It wasn't that the Phoenix High Priest didn't tell her, but that she didn't remember. She felt so ashamed. We'll be careful. After Leng Ruoxue heard the mother parasol tree's words, she fell silent for a moment before she replied. Then, she looked at the crying Peacock King and patted his shoulder. Little Peacock, let's get to work. Master, how long will it take to solve this? The Peacock King was filled with regret. He should not have broken the formation at the entrance. Great, now he had become a coolie. Even though he was a little grumbling in his heart, he did not dare to disobey his master's orders. His heart trembled as he followed behind Leng Ruoxue and walked towards a small array not far from her. As for Leng Ruoxue, after taking a look at the distribution of treasures in the secret chamber, she chose the most expensive pile of herbs. After a careful observation, Leng Ruoxue began to cast spells one after another. In less than 10 minutes, the array that Leng Ruoxue had broken first stopped working. The herbs that were protected by the array naturally became hers. At this moment, she lifted her gaze and looked at the Peacock King. She realized that the Peacock King's array was only 1/3 undone. Since she did not disturb the Peacock King, Leng Ruoxue quickly set off for her next target. When the Peacock King finally cracked a formation, he wanted to show off to his master. However, he suddenly realized that his master had cracked almost 10 defensive formations. In an instant, Peacock King's eyes widened in disbelief. Is this true? As his master's beastie, he actually didn't know that his master's attainments in formations were so high. The moment this thought appeared in the Peacock King's mind, he was ecstatic. Thanks Sob, he had finally found his master. He must acknowledge master as his master. If master doesn't accept him, he will cry in front of master. After making up his mind, Peacock King seemed to be invigorated. He became energetic, but Sung really couldn't bear to see Peacock King like this. He glanced at Peacock King and said with an unhappy face, "What are you daydreaming about? Hurry up and get to work. Look at your work efficiency, it's really too low." Ugh! Hearing this, the Peacock King was depressed. His understanding of formations was clearly not as good as his master's, so wasn't it only natural that he would be slower in breaking them? Why did this cat attack him like this? Beastie, who were also masters, were born from the same root, so why was it so urgent to attack each other? Although the Peacock King thought this way, he didn't dare to refute the fierce and brutal kitten. He could only lower his head and continue to work. Little did he know that the Azure Capital was in a bad mood because Leng Ruoxue was trying to break the array and could no longer hug him. The Peacock King happened to become the cannon fodder for the Azure Capital to vent its anger. At the same time, the Azure Capital could also sense the Peacock King's inner thoughts and thought to himself, "Humph." He even recited a poem. Wasn't this showing that he was uncultured? Actually, these were words that Leng Ruoxue often said to the beasties. Her intention was to unite the beasties and unite them against external threats. Now that the Peacock King had used it, Tsang couldn't help but feel discontented. He secretly made a note of the Peacock King in his heart. The poor Peacock King didn't even know that he had unintentionally provoked Tsang. After being pressured by Tsang, Peacock King could only lower his head and work. He didn't even dare to raise his head to avoid being scolded again. The mother parasol tree, who had been observing Leng Ruoxue's attempt to break the formation, was shocked when it saw the dazzling array of spells. After observing for a long time, the mother parasol tree could not help but ask, "Little girl, I didn't expect you to know so much about formations. Today, I've really broadened my horizons." If that old priest were to see this, he would definitely be depressed. You must know that it took him hundreds of years to set up these formations. Upon hearing this, Leng Ruoxue, who was breaking the array, replied in a speechless manner, Senior Wutong, you know that there are so many formations here and you still dare to bring me here. It's a good thing I know a thing or two about formations. Otherwise, wouldn't we have made a wasted trip? Hee hee. How could that be possible? Your Master Yes disciple, this small formation can't trouble you. The parasol tree mother laughed in embarrassment. When she brought Leng Ruoxue here in high spirits, she did not think too much about it. She did not even consider if this little girl knew anything about array formations. The main reason was that she had too much confidence in Leng Ruoxue. In addition, she had Senior Tsang's assistance from the side. Hence, she naturally thought that nothing could stump Leng Ruoxue. What's a small formation like this, right? One must know that the old priest of the Feng clan had been taught by Master Yu in the past. Master Yu had only given him a few casual pointers, but the old priest's achievements in the field of formations were already amazing. Not to mention that this little girl was Master Yes' disciple. She must have learned a lot from Master Yu. The mother parasol tree thought to itself. However, she had overlooked one point, and that was that even as the Master Yes disciple, she might not know how to use arrays. At the very least, Leng Ruoxue's two senior brothers did not know how to. However, the excited mother parasol tree would not think so much. Now that she saw how familiar Leng Ruoxue was with the array, she would not think about all these messy things. The parasol tree mother tree truly felt that watching Leng Ruoxue break the array was a form of enjoyment. Looking at her 10 fingers moving around, the spells she executed were so beautiful. Each of them was as beautiful and exquisite as a 7-colored butterfly. It could not take its eyes off them and could not move its gaze away. She felt as if her mind was being pulled by Leng Ruoxue's attempt to break the array. She also felt that 2 eyes were not enough. In the next moment, the entire secret room fell silent again. Other than the slight sounds of Leng Ruoxue and the Peacock King breaking the array, even the sound of breathing was unbelievably soft. A few hours later, under Leng Ruoxue and the Peacock King's hard work, half of the array in the secret room was finally broken. However, the two of them were also exhausted. Chapter 2438, It feels good to have someone caring for you. 3. Finding an empty space, the two sat down to adjust their breathing. They took a few pills to replenish Shin power, and their tired bodies were slightly relieved. However, neither of them had any thoughts of breaking the array immediately. Now, they felt like vomiting as soon as they saw the array. There were simply too many formations. Glancing at the two of them, Tsang Yi snuggled up to Leng Ruoxue's legs. After rubbing against her fawningly, she said with a smile, "Nyo. I know you're tired, do you want me to do the rest?" Azure can also break the formation. Leng Ruoxue was surprised. Why hadn't she heard Tsang mention it before? I know how to set up and destroy formations. Azure raised her head and said proudly. Hee hee. In this day and age, who still put in the effort to learn how to break formations? Just destroy it directly. Ah. Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue didn't know how to react. Destroy the formation. If she didn't understand it wrong, it meant to violently destroy the array, right? Looking at Tsang Xiaoxiao's body, Leng Ruoxue couldn't understand why this little thing's thoughts were so violent. This was seriously inconsistent with its size. After a long while, Leng Ruoxue finally could not help but remind him, Tsang, if you destroy the formation, you will be discovered by the Phoenix King. The herbs I want will also be destroyed. Girl, you have to believe me, I will protect these herbs well. Tsang raised his little white paws and promised. If it wasn't for the fact that Nyo was so tired that she was about to vomit, he wouldn't help. Most of the time, Tsang liked it when Leng Ruoxue did everything herself. This way, she could get some training. However, there were too many arrays in front of them. Their time was tight and their task was very heavy. Hence, Tsang knew that he had to act. This was the only way to save time. Otherwise, the longer he delayed, the more dangerous it was for him to be discovered by the Phoenix King. Although it wasn't afraid of the Phoenix King, their actions couldn't alert the Phoenix King. It must be known that it wasn't a wise choice to fight the Phoenix King now. At the very least, it hoped that when Nyo's strength was a bit stronger and was evenly matched with the other party, the two sides would truly shed all pretenses of cordiality, but now, it was not the right time yet. Hearing Tsang's promise, Leng Ruoxue pondered for a while before saying, "Tsang, I understand what you mean. However, it's better for me and the Peacock King to continue breaking these formations. Although we're about to puke from breaking the formation, this is also a good training for us. It's a rare opportunity." "All right then." Seeing Nyo so stubborn, Azure didn't insist. His heart ached for Nyo because she was too tired. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken the initiative to ask for help. But now that he heard Leng Ruoxue reject his help, Tsang wasn't angry at all. Instead, he was rather happy. Hee. This was what it liked about Nyo. As the saying goes, it's better to rely on yourself than on others. After all, relying on other people's help was only temporary. After resting for a while, Leng Ruoxue and the Peacock King continued with their work. The parasol tree mother tree, who was watching from the side, saw that Leng Ruoxue and the Peacock King were so tired that their faces were pale, but they still persisted in their work. She could not help but feel a trace of admiration for the two of them, and the Peacock King's impression in her heart also improved greatly. Who asked the original Peacock King to be a useless pretty boy in the eyes of the parasol tree? He didn't expect that this pretty boy would still be of some use now. Could this be what humans often said, that you can't judge a book by its cover? The parasol tree mother tree sized up Leng Ruoxue and the Peacock King. From the corner of her eyes, she inadvertently caught a glimpse of Tsang, who had a look of relief on his face. Instantly, she shuddered and her little heart trembled. This senior was a violent one. She must stay away from him in the future. Only the heavens knew how scared she had been when she heard Senior Azure say that he was going to use abnormal means to destroy the spirit array here. She was so worried that the little girl would agree to this in order to save time, but she didn't dare to say anything to stop him. Otherwise, this senior would definitely fly into a rage. It was a good thing that the little girl Leng Ruoxue had rejected him in the end. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable and would alert the enemy. She wasn't afraid of being discovered by Feng Tong. Instead, she was afraid that Feng Tong would join forces with Rime Ice and make the other party on guard. At that time, the difficulty of their operation to rescue Feng Wu would increase greatly. This was not something she wanted to see. It's all right now. In any case, even if the things here were lost, Feng Tong would not know who did it. At the thought of this, the mother parasol tree, who had calmed down, could not help but reveal a lecherous smile. She believed that when Feng Tong found out about this, she would be so angry that she would vomit blood. However, the mother parasol tree did not know that its little thoughts had already been seen through by Azure, but it was too lazy to care. 3 hours later. The secret chamber's array was finally cracked. Thanks Leng Ruoxue and the Peacock King relaxed and fell to the ground. At this moment, both of their foreheads were drenched in sweat and their faces were frighteningly pale. In order to save time, the two of them broke through the array while taking pills to replenish their divine power. In addition, they became more and more familiar with the array here, so from the second half of the journey, the speed at which they broke through the array became faster and faster. Seeing that his girl was exhausted, Azure considerately took out a small handkerchief from God knows where and attentively wiped the cold sweat off Leng Ruoxue's forehead. The mother parasol tree was in charge of collecting the herbs in the secret room. In the later stages, in order to not affect the speed of breaking the formation, all the herbs and ores were collected by the mother parasol tree. As for the Peacock King, who was as tired as a dead dog, no one cared about him. Looking at the cold treatment he received, the Peacock King wanted to cry but had no tears. He couldn't hurt a child without a mother. Although the Peacock King was not surprised by his treatment, he still felt uncomfortable when he met them. However, he did not dare to let this ferocious kitten and the mother parasol tree take care of him. If that happened, he would die faster. AI. Looking at the current situation, not only was he a child without a mother, his strength was also inferior to others. Thinking of this, he truly felt that he could only take care of himself. After taking a few pills to replenish his divine power, the Peacock King immediately sat down cross-legged to regulate his breathing. Upon seeing this, Len Ruoxue moved the Peacock King into the bracelet. When she saw that the mother parasol tree had also finished collecting the herbs and ores, she then brought the remaining 2 humans and 1 beast into the bracelet. Rest here. Well, continue to the next room after we've rested enough. Len Ruoxue smiled. Even though she was exhausted, they had gained a lot. Hence, she was in a good mood. When the Peacock King heard this, he almost jumped for joy. However, he had to still have the strength. After eating a few pills, his divine power had recovered by more than half. Now that he was in his master's magical space, he couldn't care less about his own grievances and sorrow. He quickly took the time to rest. After all, his master could adjust the flow of time at will here. This made him feel that he still had plenty of time. At this moment, a deep voice sounded in the Peacock King's ears, "Have some fruit." Peacock King raised his head and saw a tall shadow blocking his view. The owner of the shadow was the Eagle tribe leader. The eagle was still looking at the Peacock King with concern. It stuffed the fruit into the Peacock King's hand. The Peacock King gave him face and bit into the fruit. He was moved to tears. Sob, it felt so good to have someone care for you. The Peacock King had never expected that the Eagle tribe leader, who had always looked down on him, would suddenly show concern for him. This surprised him greatly. At the same time, his pair of probing eyes kept sizing up the Eagle tribe leader. The Peacock King really wanted to know if the Eagle tribe leader had taken the wrong medicine. Under the Peacock King's gaze, which clearly said you didn't take your medicine today, the Eagle tribe leader's entire body was seething with anger. His face darkened and he said angrily, "Damn it, what's with that look? I knew I shouldn't be too concerned about you." After saying that, the furious Eagle tribe leader turned around and strode away with his long legs. The Peacock King saw that the situation was not good and quickly extended his arms to hug the Eagle tribe leader's legs tightly. He howled, "Don't go. Don't go. It's rare for someone to care about me." Woo woo, the Eagle tribe leader could not help but cover his face when he saw the Peacock King hugging his thigh without a care for his image. This guy was really too embarrassing, wasn't he? Even if it had a master, why was this peacock still so out of line and like to embarrass itself as always? At this moment, he was filled with regret. He shouldn't have been soft-hearted when he saw that the Peacock King was exhausted like a dead dog. However, it was too late to say anything now. The Eagle tribe leader was deeply worried, especially when he saw that there were countless beasts watching from a distance. At this moment, he heard the Peacock King ask shyly, "Why do you care about me?" She asked. "You bastard." Peacock King's bashful appearance made the tough man, the Eagle tribe leader, unable to accept it. Following that, the beast men heard the furious Eagle tribe leader roar, "Fuck. Can't you speak like a man? Don't be like that, I can't stand it." The tribe leader of the Eagle tribe was going crazy. If this continued, he had the urge to strangle the Peacock King to death. Of course, if he wasn't afraid that his master would say that they were killing each other, he would have done so long ago. However, the Peacock King's face had long been trained to be extraordinary. He didn't care about the attitude of the Eagle tribe leader at all. On the contrary, he still smiled and said, "You haven't answered my question yet. Why are you so concerned about me?" This was what he was most concerned about. "Because we have a common master." The Eagle tribe leader held his forehead and said, "All right." He was convinced. He had to admit that he was no match for the Peacock King, all right? Just like this? Peacock King asked with some disappointment. Chapter 2439 Actually, I'm not a combat type beastie. 1. what else do you want to do? The tribe leader of the eagle tribe widened his sharp eyes and started grinding his teeth. Not only that, his gaze towards the peacock king was also burning with flames of anger. The surrounding beasties could already tell that if the peacock king dared to pull any tricks at this moment, this old eagle would definitely fly into a rage. At the thought of this, the beast men couldn't help but shiver. Then, they moved to a safe place. Although they were only surrounding to watch, it was hard to guarantee that the angry eagle wouldn't kill the beast to silence it. AI. Although it was important to watch, his life was more important. The beast men were very clear about the current situation. It was a pity that the eccentric peacock king was completely unaware that the eagle tribe leader had already flown into a rage from embarrassment. Instead, he spoke with a matter-of-fact expression, "I don't think you should care so much about me just because we have a common master. You should be touched by my dedication and loyalty. You should worship me, right?" The eagle tribe leader's eyes turned deep and silent. All the spirit beasts fell silent. The peacock king's surroundings were completely silent. After a long time, all the beasts present could hear was the angry roar of the eagle tribe leader, followed by a series of loud bangs. Finally, it was the peacock king's painful howl. "Woo! Master, save me! Help me! Someone is going to murder your cute little peacock. Master! If you don't stop it now, you won't be able to see your little peacock again. Woo! We are from the same root, so why are you in such a hurry to torture each other?" The peacock king, who was being beaten up, was crying and wailing at the same time. The eagle tribe leader, who was beating people up, had black lines all over his forehead. Not far from them, Leng Ruox's eyes were tightly shut as she lay on a deck chair, turning a deaf ear to the noise. On the other hand, the mother parasol tree's impression of the peacock king had changed greatly, so she could not bear to do it. After hesitating for a long time, the mother parasol tree finally said carefully, "Little girl, aren't you going to stop them? If the peacock king is beaten up by that little eagle, no one will help you break the formation." After the mother parasol tree finished speaking, it even turned around to look at the peacock king who was being beaten up. Aya! It was really too tragic. The weak peacock king, in the face of the strong eagle tribe leader, did not have any power to fight back. He could only cover his head and hide in all directions. Unfortunately, no matter how he dodged, the eagle tribe leader would always land a punch on the peacock. The peacock king's originally beautiful face was now covered in patches of green and purple. It was a terrible sight. Did the little girl really not care? The kind mother parasol tree looked worriedly in the direction of the peacock king before turning its gaze back to Leng Ruoxue. Seeing that the little girl was still resting with her eyes closed as if nothing had happened, the mother parasol tree did not know what to say. Just as the mother parasol tree was thinking about how to help the peacock king, Leng Ruox's voice was heard, "Don't worry about them. The eagle tribe leader knows what to do." "Thanks, All right." The mother parasol tree replied. Since the master had said so, what else could she say? However, the peacock king's howl was too out of sight, out of mind. The mother parasol tree thought for a moment before turning around and returning to her residence. "Woo! Master! How can you not care about your little peacock? I'm going to be beaten to death by this eagle." Not long after the mother parasol tree left, the peacock king continued to howl, but unfortunately, no one came to help. At this time, the eagle tribe leader saw that he had beaten them enough and decided to stop and rest. Besides that, he also decided to stop. He knew that even if his master didn't care about it, he would still be scolded if he really beat the peacock king up. Therefore, he had only given this peacock king who loved beauty some superficial wounds. There were no internal injuries at all. It was just that the outside didn't look good. The moment the tribe leader of the eagle tribe stopped, the terrified peacock king immediately ran to Leng Ruox's side to seek protection. He hugged Leng Ruox's leg and sobbed softly, "Master, how can you not care about me? I could only watch as that eagle beat me up." Master, you've made me so sad. To think that I've worshipped you so much. Upon hearing this, Len Ruoxue opened her beautiful eyes slightly and spat out 2 words coldly, "Shut up." Master, it's not right to leave someone in the lurch. The Peacock King felt even more aggrieved when he saw his master being so fierce to him, and he reminded him in a low voice. You didn't die, did you? Len Ruoxue said speechlessly. If she could, she really didn't want to bother with this fellow. He was too stingy. Oh. I almost never saw my beautiful master again. The Peacock King cried. No, the Eagle Tribe leader won't kill you. Just relax. Len Ruoxue rolled her eyes at the Peacock King and pointed out this fact calmly. Master is wise. When the Eagle clan leader heard Len Ruoxue's words, he immediately coquettishly replied. All right, stop flattering me. In the future, don't get into so many fights for me, and don't hit me so hard. Len Ruoxue shot a glance at the pig-headed Peacock King and warned the Eagle clan leader. Yes. The Eagle tribe leader nodded his head obediently, but he couldn't help but think in his heart, Master said to fight less, right? Oh. The meaning of less fighting could be understood literally. It should mean that they could still fight, but not too much. At the thought of this, the Eagle tribe leader couldn't help but look at the Peacock King provocatively. When the Peacock King received this gaze, he instantly felt a chill down his spine. He was so frightened that he shifted closer to Len Ruoxue. The Eagle tribe leader shot a contemptuous glance at the cowardly Peacock King. After bowing to Len Ruoxue, he turned around and returned to his own residence. After the Eagle clan leader left, Len Ruoxue sighed helplessly and said with an exasperated expression, Why are you so useless? Don't you know how to fight back? Woo! Master, his fist is too hard. I was beaten senseless, how could I think of retaliating? Besides, even if I fight back, I can't beat him. That guy is famous in the Phoenix territory for being bloodthirsty and brutal. The Peacock King complained. Oh, really? Are you sure it's not because you're too useless? Len Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes as she sized up the Peacock King, who had been beaten black and blue. Absolutely not. Peacock King said with certainty. But I don't want to believe it. After I'm done with the matters in the Phoenix territory, I'll ask Azure to arrange a special training for you. Your combat strength is really too weak. Len Ruoxue said after some thought. Master. Can I not do it? Hearing this, the Peacock King was filled with grief and indignation. If he let that little kitten give him special training, would he still be alive? Furthermore, his specialty was not fighting. Could it be that his master wanted to train him to become another Eagle tribe leader? Ugh! Thinking of that violent man, Peacock King felt that he really couldn't accept it.